your children are turned into mindless vassals who now they look up to some twit instead of looking up to Thomas Jefferson or looking up to Nikola Tesla or looking up to Magellan. I mean, kids, Magellan's a lot cooler than Justin Bieber. He circumnavigated with one ship the entire planet. He was killed by wild natives before they got back to Portugal. And when they got back, there was only...
But why? $22 million in 3 fucking hours! There is no nobility in poverty. I have been a rich man and I have been a poor man, and I choose rich every fucking time. The real question is this: was all this legal? Absolutely fucking not. Neither go towards the feeding grounds at the edge of the ice, nor return to the colony. Shortly afterwards, we saw him heading straight towards the mountains, some 70 kilometers away. Dr. Ainley explained that even if he caught him and brought him back to the colony, he would immediately head right back for the mountains. But why?
What's your dream? To go away.
To go away. That's right.
Do you guys want to drink? I don't understand why everybody has to be so judgmental. I understand why mom's judgmental. I think it's because she cares, partially. I think it's also partially because everyone else is looking at her like, hey, Cody's just a bum. Cody's this, Cody's that, Cody's this. Cody's me, bro. Let me be me.
Woo! Happy Tuesday. Boys, we're back. Josh is on the camera today. Man, we're ready to rip and roll. Markets are looking cooked. Bitcoin back into that 60K range. It's all good. Members showing up every day. Crushing it. Josh, how we feeling? How's your day and weekend?
Good. Weekend was good. I did make a trade actually on the weekend. I traded bounty work. I made actually some good money. I was in on bounty work at 250K and it ripped to like 2 mil. So pretty happy. I caught a good chunk of that move, not the full move, but good chunk.
Context being Pump Fund released their new initiative called Bounty or something, Bounty Works, where pretty much you can give people cash or meme coins to go and do tasks. You know, the idea is to promote your brand. Bro, this is like a double-edged sword. Like on one side, hey, you can maybe get some good promotion. Maybe you get a guy like streaking across the World Cup promoting your meme coin and you're going viral. But on the other hand, like you have people getting tattoos on their forehead, maybe doing dangerous things. And like, man, what's the repercussions if someone or when somebody gets hurt from this? We saw live streaming.
Oh my gosh.
There was some crazy diabolical live stream situations.
Dude, it's at 2 mil. Holy, I was looking at this morning at 400K. I was like, should I give this another go? Look at this thing. This thing is just cranking.
Did you delim this or did you take a spot position?
Both. I had a good solid 0.5% of this and it is doing nice. But yeah, you know, I had both. Yeah, bounty work, interesting. I wouldn't buy this here at 2 mil, guys, just to be clear. But I think this was definitely a good trade. I did sell it yesterday though, unfortunately. So but yeah. Okay. Wow. And that's
Interesting
what
one. I mean, I guess thesis being the whole thing being bounty work is people are going to be doing crazy stuff to promote the meme coin. What better meme coin to do it than actual
yeah,
bounty work, right? So
the
this is probably going to
guy
be the one that gets a lot of the offers. Is that the tattoo on the forehead guy?
yeah, well, there's the tattoo on the forehead guy. When that popped up, I just bought it. I was like, okay, that's gonna be big. And then yeah, just sleepy market, no one paying attention. The CTO lead is some guy verified account out of Canada. So I felt okay, decent. And then
Can you zoom in a little bit on this?
he just,
Or get off the 1 minute chart.
yeah, just started firing bounties here. I'll pull it out to it. Let's see, here's the daily, which actually that means nothing.
Yeah,
Oof,
wow.
look at
Holy.
that. I
I
mean,
mean,
this
2.5 million in volume too. This is good though. Like despite market conditions, I mean, to see that there's some appetite for memes. Again, you guys know I'm so far from a meme guy, and we are like far from meme guys on this show. But it's nice to see some life in the markets, and like we kind of go back to this every time, or at least for the last couple of months. It's like, man, Bitcoin's been rough. Yeah, good distro. Bitcoin's been rough. Crypto market's been rough. But anytime we see some sort of sideways or like attention, people are actually starting to run things up. Ceilings are really low relative to like where they used to be. But I mean, good to see things running. I'm not even mad I'm sidelined on this.
yeah, I'm mad I'm sidelined because I was in it
Yeah.
at a really good price. I yesterday I had a great trade on zinc. I think I picked it at somewhere around 1.4, 1.5. I alerted it in Discord somewhere around here somewhere, and it actually no, it was like on this candle here, and it ripped to 2.5 million. So this was another trade that I smashed yesterday. Did quite well on, but again, alerted in Discord.
This is a good one to set up our conversation today because we have Orr coming on. We have Damien as well, which largely unfamiliar with. The community came correct for Damien. I mean, they were spamming us for weeks to get them on the show. A little lower market cap than we're typically doing, but I guess, we made this exception. They were higher when we got them on. Nonetheless, should be interesting. But to queue up today's conversation with Orr, we have Hard Hat Chad coming on. Orr's kind of like the godfather of MechFi. There wasn't really much MechFi.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could go back to DeFi Summer and talk about some of the Ponzi's there, but this is kind of a upgraded version of it with more unique tactics. But Orr's like a godfather of MechFi. Zinc obviously kind of coming and heavily inspired by some of those concepts. Of course, Zinc is top 3 rev generator as well on Solana, I believe. Here, like, let me just pull up a tweet because the numbers are pretty crazy.
Yeah, I got it. I got DeFi Llama right here, number 3, right there, behind Collector Crypt, in front of Axiom at 183K. Sorry, guys, doesn't show very cleanly here, but 183K.
Yeah, that may.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's the numbers are slightly off, of course, unless Josh has the DeFi llama, but nonetheless, doing really good. Lots of these top, and of course, Orr's always in these top 10 rev generating protocols. I mean, look, number 2, right? If you look on the bottom there, you see Zinc, and then Orr right below it with relatively similar numbers. I mean, there is a bit of discrepancy, but
weekly strength notable because I think the bottom one there is weekly.
I mean, Bean's on there too.
It's great to be there for 24 hours or whatever, but to do it over a weekly and to crush it, really great. So I actually, in disclosure, I'm in Zinc. I have a D-lim open on Zinc. I think it goes much higher. I actually think Zinc goes from, in my personal opinion, goes from 1.8 here. I could see it going to 10 mil. So that's kind of what my target is.
Yeah,
nice
I mean,
5x.
what's Orr trading at? If I pull up a chart here. Let me see. Let's see what Orr's trading at, because Orr is significantly above Zinc. Yeah, Orr's at 20 million. Orr's at 20 million right now.
Yeah,
so,
can you tab to that?
Sure. All right, so here's Orr at 20 mil, 35 million market cap here. I don't know. FTV says 20 mil. There's clearly something off here, but between the 20 and 35 mil price point, $75 a share. So, or I mean, again, like it just goes back to it. We pull up this tweet I had here. Look at the top. Look at top 4 out of all of them. We have Zinc, which is kind of this MechFi, Orr, which is this MechFi, and Mine Bean, which is on base. which is this MechFi as well, who we tried to get on today, and they're missing a great opportunity to kind of cross.
Shout out Low Cap Hunter. But yo, Low Cap Hunter, if you're listening to this, you're on the wrong trade, bud. It's all zinc. It's all zinc.
He's a big bean guy.
Oh yeah, he's bag working bean. Look, I was a bean guy too at one point, but
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, let's see how Bean is, I guess, since we're having a conversation. So you see Or, right? Or is a 23 million. Bean, another kind of MechFi playing into this. And again, we've also seen other MechFis popping up with like Pokemon cards. So yeah, okay, this is more like 400 or 500K. So a little bit lower, but it did get this pop. Again, the question begs and becomes like, why are these things doing so well? What's the reason behind it? We want to understand this better. So the topic of that conversation is going to be like, firstly, is MechFi the right word to describe this? What is the word? I don't like MechFi. Doesn't roll off my tongue easily. What do you call this? Do agents make this viable? Whereas in the past we didn't have the agents, and like now this is more viable. Like, what's the difference in the shift today? But it's a really interesting conversation because you guys need to be paying attention to this at the very least and understanding it. So that'll be cool. Josh will lead that. He's pretty profound. He's a profound thinker in this space. On other notes, interesting things regarding this, we talk about this MechFi gamification. I think, and everyone talks about it right now, it's become consensus, which is the one thing that's scaring me. There are two things actually scaring me on cards. It's a supply overhang. I need to really look into emission schedules on this. And then the fact that it's a consensus trade. Obviously, we had it back here at the literal bottom before it was consensus. I think that did 600% plus, 2 all-time highs. But now it is consensus, which is scary. But also, like, their numbers are crazy, and they have 700 daily active users. So one of my friends has been pushing a lot of volume through these platforms recently. He's built up a nice $5,000-$6,000 collection in the last week or two, and he's pushed, hundreds of thousands of dollars in the last week or two through these things. And some of the feedback he's been getting from other people doing this is like largely Collector Crypt and these cards platform slabs are not very prominent at these trading card shows. And so like they have a very little footprint actually in Web 2 compared to what they could go. And so we look at cards who was on that list, of course, back to Solana Floor talking about right there, number 2. And they're doing these crazy revenues. What happens when they actually do acquire much more of these users and people in the traditional world start to understand it more? Again, they're at 700 now, doing hundreds of millions in revenue daily or weekly, excuse me. Or is it daily? I don't know. They're doing a lot of revenue. So what happens when they really do capture that meaningful audience? Some people say, well, it's concentrated user base, so it's actually bearish. I think I'm leaning towards the side that says like, hey, actually it's pretty widely unknown in the traditional world for cards. So interesting stuff. But nonetheless, Josh, anything else? You got 5 minutes, so I'll let you cover.
I got a couple things to go over. So guys, I've been talking about Galaxy Digital on the show a bunch of times. Sorry, other media from streams. Okay, sorry, I got to move Dom. I've was talking about at 17, screaming that this was a great buy, broke out of this trend, had a nice retest of the 50-day, and again, I like the 50-day retest there. And then on the data center strength, hit $32 from 25. And it's now Mike Novogratz was talking to Anthony Scaramucci at the SALT conference and said that Helios, their flagship data center campus, will be the largest data center in the United States, the largest data center in the United States. And so that's not something you lie about on stream. It actually is massive. The current biggest one is like 600 megawatts. So this is going to be 1.6 gigawatts.
Now, wait,
already
is this
approved.
going to be it's okay. So this has been approved. What does that compare to the ones? I know Kevin O'Leary's building some pretty big ones as well. There's a lot of people building some big ones. Do you know what this compares to or stacks up against like the other ones that are in production or being planned out?
So the one planned was 5 gigawatts by OpenAI. It's called Stargate. But they've ran into problems and it won't be that big. So clearly Mike, I think, has Novogratz has a little, angle on what makes his the biggest, but yes, currently it is the largest in the United States. But the key here is not how much you're planning, it's how much approved power you have. So if you can't look, 3 gigawatts is the size of 8 reactors of a nuclear power plant. Okay. I have a 3.6 gigawatt nuclear power plant, 15 minutes from my house. Okay. It has 8 reactor buildings. So do the math. 3.5 gigawatts is massive. So anyways, getting the power is key. Here's the thesis. So I always like to promote this because now Galaxy is tokenized, so you can actually buy it on chain. But really quick, I'll just throw open the thesis because we put out quality industry relevant reporting here for you guys. So this is the breakdown. Current market cap 12 billion, even at $30 after a 20% move yesterday, where the story is getting out. 12 billion, 3 to 4 billion in crypto assets. CoreWeave, which is the leading neo cloud data center neo cloud. They have a 15 billion 15-year lease for the first 800 megawatts, and they'll likely do same deal size for the second 800 megawatts that they just got approved by ERCOT a month ago. And so if you consider and then they have this huge crypto business that is profitable depending on crypto asset prices. But basically they're saying that this could be a $38 billion company just based on all these assets alone, and it's trading at 12 billion. So there's good upside for Galaxy.
What's their AUM or TVL that they have? Because they have a lot of assets on books right now. I mean, if I remember looking at Galaxy Digital, they were only trading at like a 2 or 3x to NAV, not even factoring in the growth potential of the business or these data centers. But do you know what they have on their books in terms of book value?
It's in assets under management are on the platform. I want to say it was 18 billion last quarter. I don't quote me on that. I don't have it in front of me. So
it's a really good trade. Actually, I'll even tab over to, I think, maybe some of my equity crypto plays, just to see what those are looking like real quick. So there's Robinhood is pretty much down. I'm not even going to pop up these charts. I'm just going to, okay, good. Perfect. Robinhood is ranging in this area. Of course, I wanted lower. The question is Robinhood or hype. I think you probably build a basket of both of them, but both of these will do well off crypto assets. Interesting to see hype's direction is trending to more traditional assets right now, whereas Robinhood is still in traditional assets, but also trying to expand to crypto. Although their quarterly reports have, obviously, crypto's been a negative, has gone down. Crypto earnings have gone down pretty significantly in the last quarter or two, which makes, of course, sense because of crypto. Circle as well is down. Circle gets interesting here. Now, Circle's not doing any data centers. They're more in the stable coin. I actually really I think Galaxy maybe more than all of these, Josh. So your tune's kind of been helping me get aligned with this. But just because they have so much exposure in the AI sector and how easily they can swap back and forth from AI to crypto, and they have both of these assets covered.
Priceless into BTC too. And so they might actually spin out the data center business entirely separately, and obviously they'll own it 100%. So, and then it can be properly valued. But this is your leverage Bitcoin play. Guys, you could either buy Bitcoin or you could price in BTC. And this is not the first time I've pulled up this chart. I've been talking about this chart specifically since all of this year, basically. And so
I think it could be some Bitcoin leverage. I don't know if I would make this my Bitcoin leverage trade, because I think if you price most equities in terms of Bitcoin, they're almost all going to have the same chart. I mean, here, let me do Robinhood against Bitcoin. Just want to see what this is, because Bitcoin's being outperformed by the QQQ.
That's fair. So that's a fair comparison, but I mean, it's a crypto specific company, I guess, is my thinking.
But Galaxy's not. That's what we're saying. It's largely AI now, which is probably a better vertical to be in than crypto at the moment. Circle, for example, would be a largely crypto company, which I think obviously has been outperforming Bitcoin in the last couple months. But it's an interesting look. I don't know if I would compare it to Bitcoin necessarily, but I think I have become bull pilled on Galaxy in a pretty big way because of you, Josh.
Yeah. So anyways, that's the trade. The only last one before we get to Damon real quick is I'm just going to share his relative strength on WorldCoin. It continues to perform well compared to everything else. This is WLD priced in SOL. Now, Arthur Hayes is out of the trade, but you know what? I don't care. I actually think.
Did he get out already?
He's out of the trade. Yeah.
When we had this conversation, that's the first thing I said. I'm like, dude, Arthur Hayes had the trifecta for a week and then exited on everyone's head.
Excellent.
You're right. I don't know if that matters.
I don't think that matters. I think this is priced in SOL right now. And if you look at the right, even hype is down 7%. Well, world is only down less than 1%. I just think again, this is the AI trade, and I think there's more upside. There's kind of rumors going around if you watch some of the leadership at WLD and some of their things talking about open AI, and there's a super app coming. And I downloaded the World Coin app, the World Network app, and I set it up, and it's a beautiful wallet. Really great experience. There's a whole app store in there. I just think it's going to get appreciated by the market at one point.
Yeah. I actually do like this more than Ton as well. Ton's got a nice integrated wallet, and they're making pushes towards it. If it gets integrated, Josh, I mean that's a thesis. Does WorldCoin get integrated at any capacity? And if it does, I think this reprices pretty drastically from here.
Yeah.
Let's see what else on the macro side. There's a few that I want to kind of look at how they're being affected here. Let me just pull.
We'll go two more minutes here, and then we'll get Damon teed up for you guys. I know that's what you guys are here to see.
Notoriously, Josh has exited his high position, which again, I think Josh, and you can confirm, looking to enter kind of below this 53, below this 55 range, kind of in these 50s. I guess I would probably start a DCA there as well.
Yeah, hype just got consensus. The trade just got consensus.
And like overheated. I mean, Bitcoin's been perpetually down where hype is at all-time highs. These things are going to have pullbacks at some point, which again is opportunities if you are just like tracking these leaders.
Like, go to the timeline. Think about WorldCoin. When was the last time you heard anyone bull posting WLD? Right. Forget about Arthur for a second, but it's just I just think people think it's just this scam. Like, they're doing nothing. It's an Ethereum layer 2, guys. It's an ERC20 token. It's its own layer 2. Inflation's getting cut in half here in July. And it's just, who knows? It's integrated in Tinder. You go to Tinder, you set human verification. World is the back end for that human verification for Tinder, for Zoom, and a number of other products. And to set that up, you go to Tinder, you have to then set up a World app. So you have to download the app. And the first thing it says is set up your WorldCoin wallet when you download the app. So there's this onboarding funnel from apps like Tinder. I just think it's a huge play.
Josh's wife was wondering why Tinder was on his phone. And he had to pull out
it's
research. Research.
All right.
No,
Let's
but
Damon though.
Yeah. Let me run through a few of these real quick. We got so World, good thesis. I think ultimately it comes down to, they're making moves. Do they end up like kind of supporting this token a little bit more? That's obviously what it comes down to. JTO just got listed on, what's it called? Robinhood. So JTO just got listed on Robinhood, which is interesting because it's a perps like competitor. So I'm kind of surprised Robinhood even listed that. But of course, we see this perps narrative really bubbling up on Solana. We see a lot of perps things running. So JTO is of course one of those that will receive benefits from it. Near, everyone's calling this kind of like the AI trade for crypto. Looks like it's on a bit of a pullback. Obviously, Hyperliquid we covered. Sui Grass needs better
for crypto. Just saying.
Yeah, except it's not, it's not, we need those jeez. It's like the please bros. This is the please bros of like high cap tokens is WorldCoin. It's like, please bro, endorse this Sam Altman. Please, Sam Altman, please talk about the crypto token. And this will run if he does.
He spoke at their product spot
outside that Railgun
2 months ago. So he was a speaker, keynote speaker at their product spotlight.
No comment. No comment on the value of the crypto though. Yeah. So I mean, it's his product. Of course, he should be speaking at these keynote spotlights. But again, Railgun I think is a very nice bounce for privacy. So if we are looking for privacy, I think Railgun's one of the leaders there. Zek, of course, on a violent pullback, but it was a nice bounce actually as well. Outside of that, I think that pretty much covers macro. I'll do a quick peek on Bitcoin. Cool. Yeah, Bitcoin again perpetually just down only right now. I think we'll see what happens. Maybe we flush this, but. All right, boys.
We're getting close to a bottom.
Too much of Damon's time. We appreciate them being patient and waiting.
Yeah. Do you want to tee up Damon real quick? Just
again, deep value territory is what Chill and I talked about yesterday.
Throw a chart open for Damon. Done really well.
Yeah. How's it done really well? Okay, let's see. Okay, look at that. Nice. Maybe some of you guys front running.
Community
again, lower market cap than we are.
Yeah, sorry, go
Go ahead,
ahead. I
Josh.
think Dom, you're lagging a little bit, by the way, in case there's a disconnect. But the community was in our chat at 40K, and I was like, "Yep, too low, 40K." But this has gone up to what is it, 400K? Hit the top there.
Yeah, more like 6, close to 6.
Wow, 6. The head of product marketing at Solana put it on a list for the top potential applications into the Solana Coliseum hackathon. So that's what prompted us to reach back out, re-engage, and see what's going on here.
Yeah. Again, tread lightly. We don't like to promote tokens or have conversations that are too low because this is, set for volatility. But we heard they got a lot of updates for us. So it'll be exciting to kind of come back to the roots of these real micro caps. I'm going to jump off and reset if I'm lagging here.
All right. Yeah.
And then we can get into it. Feel free to get started. I'll listen on my phone.
I'll kick it off. I'll kick it off. Null, how you doing?
Good to have you on.
Doing? Good, buddy. Congratulations on your success too, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It's been a lot of work. And sorry about our community spamming you guys so much.
No, hey, that's we appreciate them, and that's actually what helps us get great teams on the show. Is it's kind of a community show basically. So we're not here to have the big vanity interviews. We want to find the next big runners. So, awesome. But yeah, dive into it. Like, what are you working with, Damon? And give us the quick intro.
Sure. So Damon is kind of a massive product, so I'll kind of explain it simply first, and then we can go into details. But basically, I started building this tool for myself. As I was developing on Solana, I would use like VS Code or Cursor with Claude AI and things like that. I started realizing that it was super annoying having to go to like different websites or different applications to use like Solana tools like wallets, agents, all of these things. So I started building like a dashboard basically on my computer where it just housed everything into one spot, where the AI that was built into it already had all the Solana context, privacy, security, wallet, like it just knows everything for Solana. And I turned that into, we're calling it Aria, which is our in-house Damon AI, basically. And then, basically made a Web3 VS Code for on-chain development. Damon stands, go ahead.
And your background is you're a developer yourself. And so you're using these tools, or are you more of a vibe coding kind of background?
So I'm a Web 2 developer. I went to school for Web 2 developing, programming. I got into Solana 2 years ago and have been just learning developing on chain since then. And that's kind of why I noticed that like this tool wasn't really built for developing on chain, developing Solana specifically. I kept having to like download MCPs or just so much context to get it to do what I wanted it to do. So a lot of vibe coders that are coming to Solana, which we see them posting about all the time, there's tons of new builders coming, are running into these issues where apps aren't going to be safe or even made correctly at all. So we needed a tool for these developers that are being onboarded that is like safe out of the box. So one of the main things that we're working on now is while you're developing like an agent or whatever it is on chain, constantly in the background, it's doing privacy and security checks on the code to make sure that there's no leaks or any vulnerabilities, because obviously that's a huge issue in the ecosystem right now. We saw with Drift protocol and things like that.
Yeah, can we actually get on this? Mythos is releasing today, actually, which is I don't know how you feel, or
is that confirmed?
Well, I'm assuming it's confirmed. I saw some very reputable sources say it. But if it is released today, I mean, like, should people start pulling their stuff out of DeFi? Like, what's your take on on-chain Solana security with AI?
What I do personally as a developer, every time a new model comes out, is run it through my products and stress test it basically. If I can't get it to like hack my stuff, then no one else will be able to. But yeah, for that, I need to look into that when it comes out, and that will be integrated into our system as well. Because we're using right now out of the box, it will use ChatGPT or OpenAI basically for like the lower free model, and then I'm working on a partnership with ZAI to try to get a more enhanced version of this for a lower cost, so we can have more users try out the app for free. But then, yeah, you can also just use your Anthropic or Codex like API keys, so you can, for a developer, they can pretty much seamlessly switch over to it.
Yeah, and so for those that are non-developers who have never built something on Solana, before AI, how would you build something on Solana? And then during AI, how would you build something on Solana? And then what does Daemon Terminal uniquely improve on that, granularly on that development experience that makes it that a developer will switch to Daemon Terminal every time?
Yeah. So before AI, you would have to go to Solana's website documents and just read through everything, learn how to use Rust or learn how to code with Rust. If you're not a developer at all, it's a very difficult thing to just work into. It just take a lot of YouTube videos and studying and trial and error. After AI, it's as simple as typing what you want to make into a chat box and hoping it makes it correctly. Which it does for a lot of people. The problem comes then with security and privacy. So the reason that or kind of like the direction we're going with Daemon is just to kind of solve that. And the other thing I noticed with VS Code, if you're a brand new developer and you download VS Code and you want to start coding on Solana, you're going to have to go download tons of MCP servers, tons of skills, all of these things. You'll probably miss a bunch because there's literally hundreds of them, thousands of them. These are all wired into Daemon out of the box. So when you start talking to your Claude through Daemon, it's fully aware of all of Solana's context, and it has pretty much any MCP or wallet provider or anything that you would need out of the box. So you don't have to, you kind of have the things you need before you know you need them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, got it. So when you're building products, like we've seen like Either Way, and I feel like there's a few other people kind of working on this problem, trying to build like a purpose-built kind of building tools for Solana with all the skills and everything kind of like set up. How do you see kind of like Daemon's, I guess, unique thing, or like how do you compete in that world or win that kind of mind share for developers?
So the tools that I've seen that I think you're mentioning are usually ran in terminals. So it's like what are they called? It's kind of just like a command style terminal. It's not an application.
Right.
So most developers that are building big products are using apps like VS Code or Cursor or something. So you can see everything visually. You can see your code base. You can see the code. You have your terminal at the bottom. It's not just like you're typing into a terminal or a chat box. So inside of Daemon, we also made. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, please. I was actually just gonna try and pull up one of your product videos.
How do I do that?
At the bottom, you'll see that little plus computer, and you can share a tab or a window.
All right.
All right. Let me know, and I can throw it when you're ready. Are you ready to go? I can throw it on screen.
Yeah, you should be good.
All right. Awesome. Go for it.
So this is what the inside of it looks like. It's very similar to a VS Code. So you have your AI console over here. This is fully aware of your project and everything attached to it, and all the Solana on-chain things that I was saying. But the visual aspect of it that you miss out on a lot of other like in-terminal development tools that have been made is this visual aspect. So you can go through and see warnings that you have in your project, what wallets are connected to that specific project, if you're on mainnet, if it's ready for Jupiter, all of the things that you would need. There's more than you would need for most products, but we just have everything. That way you're able to make sure you're all good.
And so are you pulling like cards into this workflow? Like how would let's say, let's say I'm a developer and am I using this in a more sophisticated way? Like I'm not a developer. So if I were vibe coding something with this terminal, maybe it's not meant for me. That's totally fine. But I'm just wondering, like, are you pulling these kind of, different, like, I don't know, set up the Helios, or whatever they call RPC or whatever. Give me an example of like how you actually kind of code something.
So if you were like a new developer and you came on here, you can go, this is what you land on. We have scaffolds that we're still building, but you can start like a trading bot, or you could just come and say like, let's make a meme coin website. And this is fully like aware of Solana and everything. So it knows exactly what I'm talking about. I don't have to be like, let's make a meme coin website for Solana. It'll already know that there's going to be some sort of contract address attached to it, some sort of, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Okay.
It understands the nuances of developing for these types of tokens. Now I see you have swarms there at the top right. Can you explain what swarms do and how this works? Because I think this is a pretty powerful part of development.
So swarms is cool. I was having issues with it because I'm on Windows, and swarms is like way better on Mac and Linux, I've noticed. But what swarms does is takes multiple AI agents, or just what's the word I'm looking for, instances, and runs them at the same time in parallel, and they bounce ideas off of each other, basically. So you can say have a swarm of like a security agent, a designer agent, and a business agent or something, and they'll all run not in parallel necessarily, but they'll run like the security agent will be like, okay, I've noticed this security flaw here, and then it'll pitch the idea off of the business agent, like what should we do, and then they'll kind of work cohesively in the background. And that was something I forgot to mention at the beginning. The name daemon comes from a saying in programming, it's a background process that runs independently of direct user control. So it's kind of the whole idea behind it, is having these things while you're coding like a Solana app. The whole time in the background, it's making sure that everything is secure and safe. And that's kind of swarms are. But these swarms over here are more like configurable, so you can kind of set those up. It's not the same as what's running in the background.
So Null, I got a quick question, and maybe I missed this while I was off. But like Josh mentioned, there are multiple people trying to do these native terminals where you can build out just all in one place, build from start to finish to deploy Solana applications. What is the big moat here for you guys? And again, I'm sorry if this was already asked, but I guess the question would be, why as a developer should I go through Daemon rather than others that are competing in this vertical? Is it your integrations? Is it your partnerships? Is it your ease of use? I'm curious to know like what that real moat is that defines Daemon.
Yeah, I think that is what Josh was asking. I'm not too familiar with any other products like this. I know there are ones like other developer tools on Solana, but most of them, like I was saying, run through a terminal. So they're not very visual. So you'd have to open up like a command prompt like this and type in whatever their tool is. Like we've actually integrated some of them, like Spectro, I think you guys had on.
Yeah.
So this is like one of their tools that you could just use inside of Daemon right here.
Wow.
So it's not as visual as Damon, I have yet to come across a product that feels like VS Code, but has all these Solana tools built into it. And kind of, I guess, what makes this stand out would be our integrations, like the Spectro. So you can have, you can run your Claude, Spectro. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Spectro sounds correct. That's how.
No,
I
yeah,
would say it.
that's accurate.
Okay. So yeah, you have like multiple agents running at once. And then we do have other major integrations, one being Metaplex. We did a full integration for their agent tech. I don't know if I have it active in this session. But essentially they're working towards agents just like everybody else right now. So when you build an agent through Daemon, by default, it'll be on Metaplex.
Nice.
And then some other cool ones that we have is a wallet provider. So when you build an app, typically you would have some sort of wallet. What is it called?
Integrated, built in.
Yeah, they're
Like a Privy?
Yeah, like Privy. So when we built our own Daemon one. So whenever you build a product on Daemon, by default, you get the Daemon wallet. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, where it has all of the wallets. And we actually did partner with Soulflare on that. So
Nice.
We highlight their wallet as our first option. We did that because they're another wallet that's Solana only.
So you didn't build a competing wallet, to clarify. You have like an extension that shows a bunch of different options for wallets.
Yep, I can show you too.
Got you. Yeah, and I guess the crux of this comes down to, and we keep coming back to it on the show, but like agents are going to do whatever the most economically viable thing is. I don't think they really care about the UI of a wallet, right? So I think ultimately it's just going to be a race to zero for who can get the lowest fee wallets for these agents, so they can interact.
And that's another part of it. I'm trying to keep Daemon simple-ish right now, so it's not too complicated to understand. But the biggest part that I'm working on is the agent stuff in the background. Agents are still kind of new and like not amazing yet. They're also really confusing to build. I don't know if you guys wanted to build one where you would even go to begin. So we did also partner with a claw pump.
Yeah, there we go.
Bunny.
So you can come in here. Obviously, you can go to their website and do all the same stuff here. But with our console here, this is fully aware of claw pump since it's in Daemon. So you could say, like, let's build a claw pump agent. Assuming you have no idea how to do it, this is how you could.
And so Claw Pump is mainly trading agents. Is this going to go and query the Solana database that you guys have on the back end here to like set up the most viable practical agent, or how would that work in practice?
So it's not, that's kind of the problem that everyone's having with agents. It's pretty hard to set up like a perfect profitable trading agent with AI. So yeah, technically yes, but it's just not really. AI is just not quite there yet. So I would still recommend kind of setting up your own parameters.
We completely agree. We haven't seen a successful case of this yet.
Yeah, and we've talked to basically everyone building them. Now, I want to ask, because so this is kind of what I understand of what you're building here. And so you have Claw Pump in there, Shadow Claw Pump. That's amazing. But you also have these other integrations. So let me get this straight. People come to Daemon because it's easy to use. It has Solana's context. So as a builder, if I'm building a Solana application, I want something that knows, what an MCP is for Solana, or what an RPC is, blah, 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 right? Once you have that kind of area where people are building, you're kind of hooking up all these integrations for them. Are you getting economics, or is there some pathway for Daemon to get economics from those different types of integrations? Like if I build my thing on Daemon, am I getting, or is Daemon getting like some sort of kickback from meter flow if payments are routed through?
This is kind of shifted from the beginning. At the beginning, we had token launches through Daemon, which was just the pump fund integration. I did Pump Fund and Bonk and just like Meteora, all the main ones. And then I had an option. This was when it first came out, like a month ago or 2 months ago. I had an option to where you could launch through Daemon, which would come out of it. It was basically like launching off of the same developer wallet. We were launching the token. It wasn't really the best move, so we changed it. I'm doing like partnered launches now. This is for builders that are building in Daemon. They can reach out to us and launch through our flywheel, which we just set up last week or 2 weeks ago. So basically, if you build in Daemon, you can be a part of the flywheel. We'll give you benefits like you can use the application for a lower cost, or we'll give you more API credits. In return, a percentage of your rewards off your token are flywheeled back into Daemon and burnt. This was something I was trying to figure out a way to set up a flywheel or some kind of tokenomics that would engage more of my community, because a lot of my community is obviously exists and is really strong. But a lot of them aren't developers. So I was trying to think of something that would kind of benefit them still too.
So if I understand the model here is you are launching, people launch stuff through your product, and then you have the ability to get some of the economics back of those individual tokens to buy back and burn the Daemon token specifically. That's correct?
Yep, that's correct. So you can launch a token through Daemon if you're a developer and you want to just like launch all in one console, whatever.
Sure.
But there's an option to be a part of the flywheel, and that just is basically an email to us, and we check out your product to make sure it's not a scam. Like we'll make sure it's a cool product, and then we'll like do a partner launch.
And how much, any metrics on this? Like how many different partners have come through this? I see you have dev buybacks here on this chart.
Yeah, we have three right now. And then there's another product being worked on right now that's a perp product. So yeah, just 3 at the moment.
Can I ask?
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, keep going. I thought you were finished. Go ahead and finish that.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as far as users on Daemon, it's hard to get like a full perfect number on it. We have had over, I think, 800 people download it now, though. So
it's great.
I think it's to say a third or even half of that could still be using it.
That's great initial traction. I want to touch on economics a bit more here. You're integrated all these different providers who all take little fees on these different things. So I could see that adding up pretty fast. Could you talk to me about what the economics look like? How much profits are you keeping from all of these? Do you have special leverage in these relationships where you can work down some of the take home that the integrated partners are taking home rather than 1%? Maybe you use some leverage and get their services for 0.5%, right? What does that look like?
You mean like Claw Pump, for example? Like they're already charging a
1%.
Fee. So as of now, that is just still going to them, basically. I just have it integrated into our system. So developers have that tool to use. It's not really affecting our economics.
Okay, so you're not chalking up a fiat, they're making 1% on each agent created volume wise. You're not tacking on a 0.5% fee on top of that.
Not with them specifically. There's another launch pad I'm talking with about something like that, where we would I can't really say who it is, but we would work out
Sure, you can say who it is. Of course.
Well, nothing's set in stone, so I don't want to say anything.
All right. And you're connected into the Meteora folks, the folks at Meteora. They're a sponsor of the show, and we're happy to make that relationship.
Meteora, no, I haven't connected with anybody over there.
All right. We'll set that up for you.
Yeah, that would be great, because that is pretty much the main way like true developers are launching tokens on Solana.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, but before we get to X402 real quick, I just want to like understand where the value is in this ecosystem. So everyone thinks, I think the value is at the launchpad layer. I think that's kind of been commoditized a lot. There's a lot of competition there, but what is valuable is having the next builder who's using your terminal to actually build the thing that's going to get launched. And so I just want to talk about your upper funnel. Like, how do you get those high value builders that are going to go on and build the products that then go onto a launch pad and become actual kind of successes? That seems like the moat here seems like
ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think if I have a response, but I'm not sure if it's exactly to what you're asking. But my core idea behind this is Cursor kind of became the first vibe code software that people were using to do these kind of products on. They charge like a monthly service fee, and they include basically your AI into that price. So you're not paying for Claude and Cursor, whatever. Our goal with Damon is to get to that point where it's a subscription base. You pay like $20 a month and you have full access to all these tools. So that's kind of where our income would be coming from. And then you were saying about the Launchpad. Sorry.
Yeah, I was loosely saying how you attract those builders that are kind of you're ahead of the launch pad, and then the launch pads are kind of going to you and saying, hey, like, oh no, launch with us, we'll give you economics or whatever, right?
So yeah, I actually was speaking with what's his name? He's a previous hackathon winner. His name's Dangle. He's in the current hackathon too. But I asked him, because I was curious, I was just like, what do you use right now to develop on? And he's like, VS Code. And I was like, okay, what's stopping you from using Damon? It's basically VS Code, but for you. Just out of curiosity, what's holding you back? And it's more so just at this point, like getting people to actually just try the product. So more marketing and things like that is kind of what we're working on, because he eventually downloaded the product and he's like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, I'm just going to use this now.
So maybe let's hone in on this go-to-market strategy here, because I think kind of what Josh was asking a little bit was, if you have some people come on and build killer products on your platform, you're going to have that championing. It's going to be a good proof of concept, proof of work, I guess, for your protocol, right? And so that's the question. How do you get these great builders onto the platform, building really cool standout products that ultimately are going to attract, kind of that snowball effect? So like, what is that go-to-market strategy that you guys have been running with?
So actually, before I got into developing, I had a business development background. So it's kind of how I've been able to pull in some of the partnerships I've had at an early stage like this. And as we get more of these partnerships, it's easier to get in contact with other developers. So it's kind of just like a time game, meeting the correct people. To be honest, I have been developing on Solana for 2 years, but I haven't met hardly anybody in the ecosystem. It's pretty hard because a lot of people are not doxed, or it's just hard to like get in contact with like these really good developers. So yeah, I mean, I would love any advice on that also, but
well, I'll definitely share some advice. You should definitely look to join a super team, right? I'm not sure where you're based out of, but if you're in the US, there's now Super Team US, but definitely try to join a super team. That's where a lot of the best dev talent comes out of. And also these ecosystems, right? You're integrated with Claw Pump now. If we connect you with Meteor, you'll have them. There's like a lot of good developers building these broader ecosystems that are always willing to help. And of course, if there's incentive for Solana, Meteora, Super Team, whatever it is, to throw a grant your way or help you build on something or direct resources towards it, there's a lot of help and support there. So that would be my advice.
So Solana has a specific grant track for ecosystem grants that are like if you're running a hackathon, or if basically that you're bringing builders in that are building on Solana.
We've applied for that. I have applied for the Super Team USA too, about a month ago, and I haven't heard back. When I met with what was his name, Soulflare, he actually gave me a direct contact for him.
Nice.
And I reached out. again, I'm still just waiting to hear back. So I'm kind of on a limb there with just waiting for responses. But yeah, these are all things that I've been reaching out, and we are in the Coliseum Hackathon too. We've made some pretty good lists and got some pretty good followers from judges on there. So I'm hoping something happens with that, and that will obviously give us a massive push into kind of where we're going or where we're wanting to go.
Can I ask when Damien was birthed? How long has this been a concept in your mind? Did this come for the hackathon specifically, or is this like a long-standing thing you've been wanting to do and you've been working on for a year? Like, fill me in there.
Yeah. So I don't know if you were here at the beginning when I said this, but I started building this tool for myself. I just wanted a tool that did all of these things as a developer. I wanted to use it. It's funny. I've actually been coding Daemon inside of Daemon, but
nice.
Yeah, it started about it started about 2 months ago, right around the time the Frontier Hackathon announced, and I just, while I was building it for myself, I was like, wait, this might be a good idea actually, and then I just entered it into the hackathon there, and it's kind of just been nonstop working on it since.
Got you. I'm going to kind of walk us back a little bit because Crypto Jones had a great question about like the wallets. We talked about the wallets and the integrations there, how you offer a myriad of solutions. What's the choice with going down the wallet route rather than X402 for agents? Or is it just every app is kind of dependent on what it wants? Agents may be more X402, certain apps may be more wallet geared. Talk me through that.
So we actually have a whole X402 kind of bundle that I built. It uses Pay AI, obviously, and we route that through Zeoth, who we actually, I wouldn't say partner, but got support from on that. And then Meterflow, one of our partners. So we have the X402 paywall, and then it has the security through Zeoth, and then Meterflow does like visual receipts, basically, of the 402 transactions. And it kind of catalogs everything. So this is all like packaged in. So if you want to add like a 402 tech to your project, it's kind of like a one-click integration. So it would be the same as like a wallet integration. It's just a pre-packaged 402 that Damon put together that we think is probably the best right now. Okay,
nice. So you do have that optionality. We got to start coming to a wrap here. We got about 5 minutes for you. So let's kind of put a bow on this thing. You guys are head down working on the Coliseum Hackathon. You know, best of luck there. Hopefully you guys can win some of those tracks. Maybe walk me through what comes next. What's on the roadmap? I think we want to give the community, the listeners, something to chew on here, something they can align with. You know, what comes next in the roadmap, in the journey, and how are you thinking of this community that you built at the front and center?
And I'll tack one more onto that is any like future thoughts around the token beyond just kind of like a revenue share from your partner network.
Okay. The big thing we're working on right now was an idea someone gave me. I mentioned earlier a partnership with ZAI. I'm trying to make something happen there to where it becomes affordable for us to put Damon out essentially for free, so people can use like high quality AI models for free, so we can try to onboard as many people as possible during that time. It's kind of what a lot of people do, obviously, like free trials and stuff.
Right.
So we want to do that because then we can be like, yeah, you can use Damon right now. It's just as good as Cursor, but it's free, essentially. As far as the tokenomics, I'm trying to come up with more ideas for it. Not 100% sure on like the best route to go with everything as far as that. Taken a lot of notes from the community. And I think the next move we do with it would just have to be something like pretty major. Yeah, just still brainstorming as far as the tokenomics.
Yeah.
We have a lot of these conversations with really unique mechanisms, like, you know, Hard Hat Chad, who's coming on here after this with Or, and we do a lot of these conversations surrounding like equity structures and how you can do that. You know, curious on your runway, right? How much runway do you have? How are you guys earning funding? Are you guys funded by grants or hackathons at the moment? Are you seeking ongoing funding? Maybe tell me about your thinking there.
Yeah, we got early funding at the very early stage, just a little chunk of money to get started. And then, yeah, like I said, I've applied to pretty much, I think, over 50 different foundations or grants, things like that in the past like couple weeks. One of the bigger ones we're looking at is Helios. Helios is like the backbone of Solana RPC, or one of the main ones. Really have been trying to get in touch with them. Everything inside of Damien on chain kind of runs through them currently. So we've applied for their grant, and I have a few people trying to get me in touch with them. So that would be a big one for us. And then, yeah, just moving forward, hopefully, we win one of these hackathons, and then get the Super Team USA too as well would be great.
Okay.
To get plugged in with everybody.
So I guess ideal vision would be win the hackathon, kind of gain some more traction in terms of user base, so you have something you can maybe go to these VCs with, and then raise that kind of pre-seed or seed round. Am I understanding that correctly? Okay.
Yeah, we're not relying on the hackathon because you can't put all your eggs in that basket.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just honestly, networking has been doing really good for us. So just keep networking and building. And I mean, we've grown 1,500 or 1,200 followers in a month and a half, all organically.
Shout out to your community. You have some great bag workers.
You do.
So.
Yeah. They actually, I hadn't heard about the show before, and they kept spamming it to me. I was like,
they were spamming it to us too.
Yeah.
But
hey,
yeah,
look, I think we can help you out with some relationships and connects. I think you have a really interesting product here. I am actually kind of interested in trying it out. Just wanting to create something ourselves, but we haven't figured it out
go
yet.
for it. If you can DM me after the show, and I can give you some like free trial, whatever.
Yeah, well, I think that kind of comes to time, so we have to really wrap it there. But yeah, I would be interested in seeing, if you can get some more of that funding so you can really push this go-to-market strategy and subsidize some of these users to really get them on the platform. Of course, jumping those numbers up and then maybe taking it to the next step with funding or whatever. But I'm looking forward to what you're doing. This is pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's majorly beneficial for Solana, especially as we really enter this agentic economy, to have these native terminals that really do have so much customization and the ability to just have it all in one place. So
I saw maybe 30-second take. I saw people talking about Graphane. I don't know if you think of Graphane as an old school competitor, if they're doing anything in like literally 30 seconds.
Didn't Graphane never even go public, right?
There was like so many back then where you had these, natural language deployment app, deploy a native Solana app in one click, or natural language, just none of them worked out. I think technology was also way
I remember
behind.
Graphane, I remember I wanted to try it, but it never was like, you were never able to use it, right? Or am I mixing that up with something?
You could be right.
I don't think they got very far. Yeah.
But one other thing I forgot to mention was for marketing, I wanted to do like a big, almost like a hackathon or something, where it's like have a competition where people build inside Damon, and then we do out. I've tried to do this early on. It was just way too early, and we didn't have enough of a following. So I think that would be like the next step once we grow a little more and have a good developer following base. Is to host one of those.
Are you on Pump Fun, or who did you launch with, Meteor or Pump Fun?
We just launched through Pump Fun. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe there's a conversation there to be had with Pump Fun of like a micro hackathon with, who can build the best pump, maybe Pump Fun and Solana can sponsor tracks. Of course, they both benefit from that. So interesting stuff. Nonetheless, we do have to wrap here. It was a pleasure talking to you. So we'll be keeping in contact.
Shout out Damon community. See you all.
See you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. See ya.
All righty. There you go. That was Damon, guys. Interesting one. Of course, we have seen a lot of people try these native one-click deployment apps, everything in one spot. It's yet to have one, I think, really break out. Messaging is there. I mean, can you be the cursor of Web3? Can you be the cursor of Solana? I think it takes a very strong go-to-market push. It takes some money to subsidize these people coming on the platform. There's a lot to it, and you have to have a great product on top of that. So we'll be watching it. I would love to see this work in practice. And of course, we are so far ahead. We mentioned Graphane and some of the others from back in the day, and we've gone so far in terms of AI development and what developers can do with Claude, Codex, etc., Cursor. And so like we are in a different spot. So, things could work differently this time around. But that being said, Josh, we got org coming up here. Hard Hat Chad, the man, the myth, the legend. One that's been on Solana for a while, one that constantly places in the top 10 revenue generating products. It has been for a while. I mean, nothing to cough at when it comes to their numbers.
Nope.
We've also seen this kind of recent emergence of MechFi, and that's what people are coining it as, right? MechFi. Is that the right word? I want to hear what Hard Hat Chad has to say for like, what's the proper way to call this? Because I think Ponzi is disingenuine, with where we're at today. Curious why this is starting to blow up. We see Zinc and Bean on the list of top rev generators as well, both of which are kind of in the same vertical and niche here. Of course, or being heavily like the OG, heavily inspiring many of what we see today. So we got the godfather of MechFi coming on right now, Hard Hat Chad. This is gonna be an exciting conversation. Josh is like in the weeds with this stuff, so he's gonna be able to get off to this conversation. With that being said, Hard Hat Chad, welcome up to the show. We're excited to chat today.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Welcome. Like I mentioned, the godfather of MechFi. Are we calling it the right thing? Is MechFi the right way to describe this? I've seen some people coin this term. I think some guys at Coliseum. We've kind of just been rocking with it in our conversations, but like, I don't know. It doesn't really roll off the tongue too easily. What's proper? Like, let's coin something here. What do you call this?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I don't think it's the right category personally. Like when I wake up, to the extent I think about competition, I think about like, Bitcoin and Zcash. I think about ETH. I think about gold and the dollar. And so like, to me, right, like the category isn't MechFi. Like, I don't think of OR as like the largest coin in the MechFi category. I think of it as the smallest coin in the SOV non-fiat currency category. And that's really what we wake up and go after every day. I know there's some others that are, I don't know, have taken some ideas and also running with it as well. And I sort of support that, and to the extent that it helps grow the conversation and scale self-custody. But I don't know. I don't think about the MechFi category at all personally.
Interesting. I mean, well, you kind of are, I think, fair to say, the godfather of this emergence, because we've seen, of course, Zinc recently come, and I think heavily inspired from you. I think Bean as well. And I'm not going to go and talk about a bunch of different people, but it is interesting to call it the store of value. Would this be an accurate description that Vibu said, where we call it Solana's native store of value?
Yeah, I mean, the vision for OR, I don't want to take too long going through founding story, but like came from some time I spent. Basically, I was very, very big on Bitcoin, but grew a bit disillusioned with the state of Bitcoin. This is probably like 2 years ago now, where essentially 99% of Bitcoin transactions are not settling on the chain that Satoshi wrote about and built. They're settling on Binance and Coinbase and Robinhood and these other centralized exchanges. And so I just didn't feel like Bitcoin was scaling self-custody like it was meant to, and obviously there was no Bitcoin DeFi. And so my original thought was, well, let's try to bridge as much Bitcoin as possible to Solana. But the longer that we spent digging into that bridge technology, I just couldn't grow convinced that was the right sort of long-term architecture for the industry. And so a thought had occurred to me that, well, Bitcoin is a computer program. Essentially, we could probably rewrite that as a smart contract on Solana and deploy that, and we would get quote unquote Bitcoin on Solana. And obviously there are trade-offs in that it wouldn't be the same token and very different social network, but you'd get the same sort of core properties and principles as an asset, in terms of the fixed supply sort of proof of work issuance mechanism and programmatic emissions on a chain natively issued to a chain that has DeFi and fast settlement, cheap transactions, etc.
Can we touch
so that
on
there was
that?
an actual
It's interesting you chose Solana, and we see these store of value tokens you can talk about. You mentioned Bitcoin, Zach, etc. They're all on their own native chain. You chose to go with Solana, and it seems like you're looking to do the store of value, where Solana's maybe the network token. How do you think of choosing Solana as the network token or the network that you're building on, rather than creating your own layer one? What was like the thinking behind doing that?
Yeah, I mean, quite a few things. one, like the Solana team, right? Like they and all the people working on the core infra are just like top tier world-class talent. And in terms of scaling, these blockchain networks, no one is doing more, like pushing the envelope more than the core Solana infra teams, at Anza and Cheeto and elsewhere. And so, for OR to launch on Solana, we inherit from all those performance gains that the core network gets, and then there's obviously like a lot of DeFi ecosystem benefits from being on a chain that like dominates spot trading, and I think will continue to pick up market share in other kind of important categories like perps. But there's just network effects of being on that same chain. And I mean, Solana also, there's like a personal element to it, and that like Solana was how I got into crypto, like is what I first fell in love with. And so I've been building on Solana for probably 4 years now. And it was just like the natural fit.
I mean, you said you didn't want to get too deep in the weeds with the founding story, but I think like it's so important to have these founding stories because it helps kind of shape the narrative that you're pushing and the vision that you have for this. You said you got started on Solana about 4 years ago. What brought you into crypto and building in general?
Yeah. Prior to being in crypto, I was working in big tech at Uber, the taxi company, primarily working on the payment systems there. And so that involved a lot of, working with credit card networks. We had some cash products and working with banks actually a lot on like the payroll system that pays all the drivers. And so I don't know, being in that legacy payments world, we obviously knew about crypto, we knew about Bitcoin, we knew about Ethereum, but those chains never made any sense to us as like something we would actually use because the settlement time was just so long. You'd have to wait 30 minutes or more, and then the transaction fees were just completely unreasonable. And then around 2021, a friend of mine showed me Solana, and that was the first time it struck me that, okay, this technology had developed to a point where you could send $1,000 to anyone, anywhere in the world, over any border, and it would settle in a second and cost a fraction of a cent. And that struck me as actually, competitive to the fiat payment rails that we were using. And so, it's potentially the future, disruptive. So that was what pulled me in.
So this has been great because I never really understood OR. I'm not going to lie. It took me a while to figure it out. The store value narrative also, I find a little bit of a stretch just at first glance because I understand BTC's mechanism where you have a fixed supply. I could tell you this day, 100 years in the future. And I've been in crypto for a long time, over a decade. So I've seen it all come through and all happen. Now, on this one specifically, you have this kind of, what I understand is there's a balance here. There's a balance between mining off the grid. Someone's winning on the grid. Someone's losing on the grid. There's like all these kind of actionable mechanisms that you have to go, obviously deploy that capital. But then we call it a long-term value preservation. Like, how does the mechanism that you've figured out mechanically translate into this long-term value preservation?
Yeah, I could describe how we landed on it. So, 2 years ago when OR first launched, it was real proof of work. I mean, like actual proof of work, right? Like users were computing hashes on their computer, fans were spinning, chips were getting hot, and then you'd submit a hash to the chain, and the chain would validate the hash and mint a token. And the reason we did that was we had a thesis at the time that like proof of work was fundamental to our store value mission. That if you were to launch sort of a Bitcoin-like token, Bitcoin-esque token on Solana, like proof of work was core to the issuance mechanism. But over time, it became apparent that, there was a critical flaw really in like the way that proof of work works for emissions, and that there's this value leak where, essentially in any proof of work system, including the proof of useful work systems that, kind of hot the last few weeks or so, there's a value leak where the miners, right, they're spending fiat, like dollars on electricity to generate hashes. And, every hash is a ticket, essentially a lottery ticket to win the block reward. And so the more hashes you can generate, the better your odds of winning. And then when you do win, the miners earn crypto. So, from an accounting standpoint, you're spending fiat and you're earning crypto. And then therefore the miners have to sell that crypto back to fiat. And so you have this value leak where essentially all the money that the miners are spending on electricity is coming out of the value of the token. It's essentially the Bitcoin holders, right, that are paying for the miners' electricity by holding the token. And for OR and just where we were at the scale, like that was just kind of an untenable situation. And so we started looking for ways that we could close that loop. And that was where we developed the grid mining system that's live today. Is that, you know, we want to find a way to redirect that value flow. So rather that, you know, instead of going to electricity companies, it's going back into the token value.
That's really interesting. It's almost like when you look at Helium or some of these deep pin networks, they kind of suffer from their own success because you pay this fee in fiat to use the platform, and then you mine or earn emissions of the token. And of course, you have to turn around and sell that token directly into the market to go and then, you know, pay back your spend, right? So it is an interesting concept. And it's kind of clicking now when you explain it like this, like really having these systems that are non-Web3 native to do Web3 tasks. It just doesn't make much sense. So it's a fascinating way of putting that. Maybe talk me through some more of your thinking on proof of work over proof of useful work. Of course, you mentioned some of these things being popular. We're seeing Pearl Network, Knock, you know, and so on and so forth, where, you know, you can actually put some of this proof of work to proof of useful work, where these AI miners, I'm jumbling all, but AI miners are essentially, you know, spending this cost on compute. Now they're also securing the network. Why do you lean towards proof of work over proof of useful work? Or did I maybe not understand that take fully?
Well, yeah, I actually wouldn't call what OR is doing today proof of work. Like we definitely moved pretty like clearly off of proof of work back in August of last year because of this value leak issue. That was what's the big, the current version that we call today grid mining is kind of the term we use. The V3 version of OR was a switch away from proof of work because of the value leak. Yeah, in terms of proof of useful work, from an economics, like, you know, analysis standpoint, I don't think it's all that different from proof of work. Like, yeah, you have miners that are essentially generating these ZK proofs, which is no different than generating a hash. That ZK proof doesn't really have any economic value to anyone. Like they're kind of useless bits in the same way that a hash is useless bits of information, and the chain is minting a token to pay for those useful bits. So yeah, it to me, I don't see. I understand the narrative, like the exciting narrative, I guess, around like securing a chain with AI compute, but from an economic standpoint, I don't think there's anything revolutionary about the proof of useful work.
So I gotta ask this, because like this is actually really expanding my thinking of what you've built here and all these different mining ones. Because initially when I opened it, I thought, okay, this is a roulette wheel, right? You like choose your thing on the grid, and like randomly, maybe you land there or not.
Yeah.
How do you like, but there's also this element where if you deploy to all of the grid, so it's strategy dependent, you can get, you know, the additional OR token is kind of like your APR upside, or your plus EV, I guess I should say. Or you could do like a strategy where you pick everything but the last number that was chosen, which is more, you know, statistically significant, not to be twice. So maybe just walk through, like, why shouldn't I think of this as a, you know, roulette wheel board scenario? And why should I think it as something completely different? And do people think of it as a potential roulette wheel? So that actually kind of is a dual like upside in a way that's positive EV.
And dare I tack on one last point? Are these automated systems, agents, or just humans? Sorry, gotta throw it in there. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, the answer to the last one, the automation is, it's just a bot. Like you're able to sort of program your automation strategy that gets written on chain, and then a bot can crank it for you so that you don't have to manually, you know, click every round. So I don't know that I'd call it an agent. Like it's not a chatbot. We're not using LLMs or Matmols like under the hood. It's just some code that cranks your strategy for you. But in terms of the first question on the roulette thing, like definitely this has been probably the number one, like most important feedback we've gotten since switching over from proof of work to grid mining, is that, you know, our mission throughout all of this has been the same, of like building this sort of non-fiat store value native to Solana. And our grid mining system has made that more accessible, and that like a lot more users have been able to participate in mining. But we do see that like a pretty large chunk of users are just not able to like grasp that larger store value vision because of the like roulette nature of the board. And to be fair to that, right, like there is a pari-mutuel payout system currently in the board where, you know, the SOL on the losing 24 squares is summed up, the protocol takes its fee, and then is redistributed to the miners on the winning square. And we are looking at some possibilities in the V4 system to essentially, we want to address that. Like, we don't want, the intent here was not to build a gambling product. It was meant to build sort of a more accessible mining system. And so we really see that like gambling point as a leak in our onboarding funnel. And we want fewer users to like fall through that leak and get burned. Like one really common flow right now is users will come in, not really know what they're doing. They deploy in a square, and then they lose all their SOL because they didn't really know what was going on. And that really shouldn't happen, because those users like churn out too quickly. So we're in the process right now over the coming weeks of like doing this progressive V4 rollout, and a bunch of these mechanics are actually going to change and get tweaked a little bit, such that users, new users get burned a lot less often, and we are expecting that it will look less like roulette. Like mechanically, it won't actually be roulette.
Can you give us a bit of a sneak peek on what that's going to look like? I'm trying to figure out if this is a UI thing. I think genuinely the large majority of people that are unfamiliar at a deep level with the OR platform think about it like Josh just mentioned, as this roulette or somewhat gambling, which this is clearly not the case here. Maybe give us some insight, if you don't mind, on what that new version is going to look like. Is it a UI tweak? Is it a messaging tweak? Like, what changes here that separates this the current view that people have to the view I think you guys are trying to really gear towards?
Yeah, I mean, funny enough, the UI won't change all that much. Because the feedback has been actually that people like the UI. Like, the grid mining has become a little iconic and recognizable.
It is fun.
And and actually, right, it was kind of, I would say, non-trivial to move away from proof of work and for the community to still, understand this process as mining. That, like, it was a big risk when OR moved off proof of work, and we weren't sure that was going to work, but we, took the risk, and everyone seems to, kind of buy that this is mining, and I do as well. Cause like, fundamentally from an economic standpoint, it's not all that different. You're just kind of taking out the hashing step. But the value flows are very similar. And so, but in terms of, the V4 changes, like, probably the biggest mechanic change will be that we are, I could leak this alpha now, I guess, is that we are removing the pari-mutuel payout. So that's, a system where the SOL on the losing 24 squares is summed up and paid out to the winners on the winning square. That will get replaced with a new system that makes it far less likely to, like, you're going to get SOL back basically on every deploy. I don't want to go into like the specifics quite yet. We're going to have details. We'll have details coming out probably next week. But yeah, we are going to remove that pari-mutuel payout, because that honestly has been doing more harm than good. And so, it's just kind of necessary to refine that.
Interesting. Can I talk about a bit of the differentiation here between, I guess, your traditional store of value tokens like Bitcoin, or coins like Bitcoin and Zcash? You guys obviously went on the Solana network, and Solana has a network token, right? It's Solana.
Yeah.
Like, what's the thinking there? Do people not want to spend their store of values? They want to keep it as a store of value, and Solana is going to be the network token that gets spent for gas or, I guess, bartering, whatever it might be. Like, what's your thinking between keeping a store of value kind of separate from the network token, or do you want this to be a network token at some point? Maybe help me understand that.
Yeah, no, we have no plans to launch our own L1 blockchain. And I don't think we ever, we definitely never will. In L1 network, like, you have, the problem is more difficult, right? Because you also have to solve for consensus. Like, the L1 chain has to most fundamentally provide consensus for all the users and all the smart contracts. And that comes with certain constraints. Like, the proof of stake networks fundamentally solve that with inflation. Like, they inflate away the token supply. on every block, because you need these incentives. And it's kind of like TBD, right? Like how chains like Bitcoin will, like if they will be secure when they hit their max supply limit. Because right now, right, like the vast majority of the miner revenues is coming from the block subsidy, which is new Bitcoin that's being minted, and not from user transaction fees. And so this is kind of, you know, an ongoing conversation in Bitcoin, is that like every halving, the miner revenues get cut in half. And so all these, you know, real large public companies that are mining Bitcoin, their revenues get cut in half, and everyone goes into the red. And every halving, there's a consolidation process where, you know, miners will they'll have to go bankrupt, and it's this war of attrition to kind of outlast everyone and buy up the resources of the companies that shut down. And so, yeah, I mean, by launching as a SPL token on top of Solana, like we just sidestep the whole consensus question. Like we don't need to solve for consensus. Mining doesn't need to play any role in like a consensus algorithm. So we really solve only for distribution, because I think what really matters for like a store of value kind of non-fiat currency is the user distribution. Like you want to get the tokens into as many hands as possible. And so that's what we want to optimize for, without having to worry about like solving a consensus problem for an L1 chain.
Okay, Dom. Okay, go ahead, Dom.
Maybe just to maybe further on this again, because like it seems like there are no real plans to make this a network token, unless I'm misinformed. So like where does the true value of this lie? And maybe it's a trivial question, you know, but I guess when if I have to ask you, like this being a store of value, where is the value in holding this? Is it just, you know, the token should go up over time? Is it, you know, like where is the store of value here, rather than like Bitcoin? I guess you could say it was the first. Zcash, sure. Maybe you could say it's like the quantum, a private version of Bitcoin. When you think of OR, where would you say the core value lies to make this a true store of value token? Like why would people want to hold on to it?
Yeah, I mean, every store of value is a social network fundamentally, in my mind anyway, where every user that buys into that belief system adds kind of a unit of value to the other users who are also in the network. And so obviously Bitcoin operates this way, gold operates this way, the dollar operates this way. And then the other more like meaningful or measurable, I guess, like metric that you can kind of compare stores of value to is their liquidity. So the dollar, right, is like the most liquid asset in the world. You can exchange it for anything, virtually anywhere. Like you go somewhere and people are willing to give what they have for your dollars, whether it be a car or television or food or, you know, whatever. Bitcoin, far less liquid. Like obviously it's liquid in certain markets, but you can't like, you know, go to Mexico really, and no one's going to take your Bitcoin and give you a taco. Right. And so like liquidity really matters, and belief really matters, and those two things go together, and so there's a feedback loop between the two, and it's really about trying to kickstart that as much as possible.
And so this is actually a good lead-in question to the revenue question, because I'm really keen to understand what moves the needle on revenue. And from your perspective, does the ore price play a role in the revenue that's generated? So if ore is trending upwards and people are seeing it as that store of value, they want to accumulate more of it. Okay, well, I got to play this game, or, you know, I got to do proof of useful work and mine it off the grid. Like, what do you think? How do you think about the revenue number, which trends on top revenue protocols, which is valuable, but also then balancing that with the price of ore itself?
Yeah. I mean, diving into the weeds, what we've seen from the data is that like the protocol revenues does follow token price. And there's a little bit of a reflexive loop where like sometimes token price will follow revenues, but that feedback loop is kind of weak. And usually, you know, it eventually like pops. It doesn't hold up forever. Like you can't create a perpetual motion machine. Yeah. Like there's loss along the way. So, but definitely the revenues follow the token price, because essentially the miners are mining fundamentally for the emissions, for the new ore that's being created. And so if that ore is more valuable, that will lead to more SOL being deployed.
Yeah. And I think we're at this stage right now with Solana where you guys transitioned to this mechanism, and Solana's been pretty much down only since then. Just in general, the market's a little rough. Everything, whether it be the revenue number that you see, the market caps, are all denominated in dollars. So there has to be some negative feedback loop that's kind of playing a role, and this is true across DeFi in general. I just maybe want to hear your thoughts. If we get into a different market regime here and we start seeing better SOL price action, do you think that has, I don't know if reflexive is the right word, but
Direct
is
impact.
that give you a direct impact on the amount of people that will likely deploy and the amount of value created here, or the store value, we should say?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that Aura definitely has some like beta correlation with SOL. Simply, I mean, mechanically, just from like the liquidity pools and how much liquidity is SOL denominated. And we've done a bit recently to try to diversify more of that liquidity over to USDC as, essentially insurance or hedge against continued downward SOL price action. But certainly, like there is beta correlation between the two. And yeah, we have some interesting new ideas coming in the V4 around like protocol and liquidity and management of that, where I think a portion of those revenues, rather than going into sort of top blasting buybacks, we could deploy them into more of a strategic liquidity position that could be diversified across a number of assets.
Sorry for interrupting. I think I lost you for a second there. No, this makes sense. And I kind of want to understand the fuller picture of just how this works mechanically or economically, I guess, as we're on this topic. Could you walk me through the full picture? Let's say, I go and deploy to the grid, how much ore is being emitted? Can you tell me kind of the schedule on that? And then like, is there a buyback feature? Are buybacks outpacing emission, right? Does this actually become deflationary at some point? Can you maybe walk me through the whole just broader flywheel, if you will, on how this ore system works?
Yeah, so the emissions rate is 1 ore per minute, and it's been that way since for the last 2 years. So it's a very just linear emissions rate, very simple to remember, just 1 token a minute, and so that gets spread across the grid. All of it actually right now goes on 1 square, and so miners deploy SOL across the grid, and then at the end of the minute, one of the tiles is chosen, and the miners on that tile split that 1 ore based on their deployment numbers. Some rounds it's all paid out to 1 miner, some rounds it's split between all the miners, but essentially it goes to the miners on the winning tile. And the SOL on the losing 24 squares, 10% of that goes to the protocol as revenue. And so that's that like top line revenue number that gets reported everywhere.
So it's not the total deployed, it's just 10% of the deployed.
No, yeah, it's not the total deployed. It's 10% because the rest of that SOL gets essentially returned to the miners.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. You said that goes to the revenue. What happens then with that revenue?
100% of it goes to buybacks. So there's just a randomized and automated Jupiter swap that swaps into ore, and then that ore that is purchased, 90% of that purchased ore is burned, and we call it buried just colloquially, but the token is burned, and then the remaining 10% of the ore that was purchased with that revenue gets distributed out to stakers as yield.
So is some of the thinking behind the protocol and liquidity is to generate outside revenue that is not correlated to the game, but can also provide additional plus EV to the game?
Yeah, I mean, we see 3 reasons primarily why miners mine. They mine, 1, because it's fun. 2, there's like, some opportunity to acquire ore below spot price at what we call like the production cost. And then 3 is like what we call refining yield. So the refining yield is probably the part that like is most confusing to users, but there's this extra mechanic on top, right, where that the community designed actually, where when you mine, you receive what we call unrefined ore, and then whenever you go to claim your mining rewards, there's this 10% fee that's incurred. And that 10% fee gets redistributed to the other players that are holding unrefined ore. And so the idea is that the longer you hold on to your mining rewards, like the more ore you receive. And this is really meant to redistribute tokens from those who hold for just a little bit of time to those who hold for a longer amount of time.
So there is this network effect here where it's, hey, I'm mining this ore. Let me hold on to it because the longer I'm in the ecosystem, the more likely I'm going to be able to make a significant return on this investment here. I think that is a pretty interesting mechanism there. So in terms of emission, are we seeing more ore tokens emitted than are being bought back and burned, or do you have mechanisms or metrics on that we can look into? I'm just trying to figure out how, if the math makes sense more so to mine or just to buy off the open market, or if this is changing every single round.
It fluctuates for sure. I'd say on net, it's slightly positive emissions. So on net, slightly inflationary. And then there are periods, usually when the motherload pool is high, where the asset will go deflationary and more ore gets bought back off the market than is minted per round.
Right. And the dynamic there with the motherload is that people are trying to win the motherload. So they're deploying more, which generates more revenue. It's kind of a cat and mouse game between the motherload hitting and you owning the token ahead of that. Okay.
Yep.
I do have a question here I got your DeFi llama up here. And, obviously we've seen a strong narrative in November and these kind of everyone's playing around with these protocols. And then they kind of die off. And this is kind of, I don't want to say die off, but they kind of find an equilibrium or a new equilibrium. How do you, and this is starting to trend upwards. And I think, we've seen a bit of, whether it be different, MechFi or, terrible name, but different things. These are starting to get hot again. How do you get this back to some of these metrics in November? What do you think is the magic to getting kind of these numbers back up there?
Golden question.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be done sustainably. Like what happened in November, right, was one of these like viral reflexive loops that happens on crypto Twitter every now and then. And honestly has seen like 3 of them now, or like I've sat in the eye of the storm and like watched it happen. And it's kind of a little weird. But like, essentially, the token will go viral for one reason or another. And that attracts a lot of like short-term traders, which then bid up the price, and then revenue follows the price and you have this like very, very clean, smooth, like exponential on the way up. And then eventually it reaches a point where it will go back the other way. And so you have this kind of like exponential decay on the backside too, that's usually spread out a little bit longer than the ride up. And I think that, like that price action is fundamentally driven by short-term speculators that are not interested in like holding the asset for longer than usually like, a few minutes to even a day or so. And so ore has been through that loop like a few times. And our approach to it is less about like trying to just hit that number again, because if you do it through these reflexive loops, like it's not sustainable, and more about like how do we grow the community each time we go through one of these loops, such that we come out to the other end with more users than and more community members than we went in with, and raise our baseline every time. So and those reflexive loops, they kick off like very randomly. They're hard to predict. Yeah.
I would want to ask another question, kind of let's talk like agent fi, right? We're seeing this kind of rise in agentic finance and what it's looking like. Agents are obviously going to always do at some point the most economically viable thing. If it makes some sense for them to go and mine ore, and there's, a 10% margin on that, if you factor in, the sell or the smelt, all the refining of the ore, whatever, these agents are going to do the most economically viable thing. Are you worried at some point these agents are going to arb out just all the opportunity and you're going to be left with just agents playing on the grid rather than any humans, or does that not matter ultimately?
No, I don't think it matters that much. I mean, right now, every agent ultimately is working at the behest of some human user. They're just kind of scaling some human's ability. No, we're not that worried about ARB. I mean, probably, it's worth saying like ore has been here for 2 years now, and I think we've seen the most aggressive like ARB attacks like imaginable. Like during the V2, like prior, proof of work mining systems, like that was what led to this V3 design was the grid mining design was trying to address the crazy like arb flipping short-termism that we saw out of proof of work mining. So the OR community, I think, is like very, very aware of that kind of behavior, and we know when to spot it. And certainly there's some amount happening right now, and we continue to discuss it about, like, should we address it? Should we not? Like, it contributes to the refining yield. So do we really want to stamp it out altogether? Right. But as long as you have, I think, like a majority of the miners are actual believers and holders, and it doesn't need to be 100%, but as long as it's like more than half, then I think we're actually fine. Like, we don't, and this is my opinion. Other people in the OR community have different opinions, but we constantly discuss it. Is that I don't think you need to stamp out every single person who's trying to arb the production cost to spot price. Like, they actually do provide some value to the system.
Now, I have a question. UORB, right? Unrefined ore. Can this be bought on the open market, or is it only possible to acquire through mining? Because, like Phil said, 50 to 70% APR, of course, depending on the price fluctuations of ore and, how many people are staked. But that's really, really good APR. And I think it incentivizes a lot of people to hold this unrefined ore. Can it only be acquired through mining, or can you actually buy unrefined ore off the open market?
Yeah, only through mining. Yeah.
And what's interesting about this is it does incentivize like these network effects, right? I mean, holding unrefined ore is a bet on the network growing and people continuing to use it, and then those 10% fees continuing to flow and grow over time. So like there is actually a network effect play here by holding this unrefined ore. Do you guys ever plan to make it an asset that's purchasable, or you want to keep it to strictly for miners?
No, I don't think it makes sense to tokenize it. We do have a liquid staking token called Store, like STOR, which wraps the main stake pool, and so that has the regular sort of staking rate. But the unrefined ore is like pretty much tied to your miner position, and it's non-transferable to other miners. And it would be, I don't think there's a way to make it like fungible, essentially, because one miner's your position is kind of different than another's.
What's so interesting about this is with the 50 to 70% APR, and assuming this has held steady for a little while, maybe it shrinks even to 20, 30, 40%. What's interesting about this is it actually makes sense in some cases for miners to mine or at a loss, knowing that over time they'll kind of receive more than that in APR. Are you seeing people do that strategy at all? Because it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, certainly some of them. I mean, definitely the miners are in general mining for the UOR, like the unrefined ore is the number one reason we hear from miners as to like why they're mining.
Yeah, interesting.
I see Quantum Secure Wallet. What is that reference to?
Yeah. I mean, so our vision here, right, is like a store value fundamentally is future-proof against all sort of, future problems. and quantum security is like, I don't know, a risk that crypto is acutely vulnerable to. And so, I mean, in general, for users that aren't aware, quantum computers are a new computing technology that is powerful for certain applications, but one application in particular is being able to essentially derive your private key from your public key. So cryptography, decryption, and certain cryptographic signature schemes that many of the blockchains use are like particularly vulnerable to this kind of attack. And this isn't happening today, but there have been many projections put out by researchers in the field, and Google included, that like within 7 to 8 years, many cryptocurrency systems will actually be vulnerable to these kinds of attacks. And so what we had done was work with another developer named Dean Little in the Solana ecosystem to essentially roll out a multi-sig where you can secure your funds with both a regular Solana key pair as well as a quantum resistant key pair. And the idea here is that even if your regular Solana key pair, which in theory, could be compromised in the future by some advanced quantum computer, your other quantum resistant key pair would not be. And so, or, it's extremely, extremely unlikely to be. And so you can secure your funds with this sort of 2 of 2 multi-sig, or secure your funds with an alternative signature scheme, and just get that extra layer of security.
Interesting. I want to talk more about this quantum risk. Obviously, you were inspired by other stores of value, like you mentioned, Bitcoin, Zach. Maybe we talk about the problem and solution here to kind of put a bow on this conversation and maybe lead into roadmap and closing thoughts here. But with that being said, what was the big problem you saw that you wanted to solve for, and what is that solution that Aura brings? I'm just interested to hear, I guess, more as well on like the quantum side. Where does Bitcoin fall short? Is Bitcoin at risk of this quantum security, and do we see that in the next 5-10 years? So I know that's kind of two questions, double-edged sword there, but maybe start with problem and solution. You were inspired heavily by these store of value tokens, coins like Bitcoin and Zach, and you thought you had a better solution with Aura. Could you walk me through what the problem was and what the solution is that you're solving for?
Yeah, I mean, most fundamentally, it's self-custody and DeFi. Like with Bitcoin, right? It's like 99% of the transactions just are not happening on the blockchain that Satoshi built. The Bitcoin chain can't scale. Like there was a whole war, right? Like block size wars fought a number of years ago over this, where it was like, half the community, Coinbase included, a bunch of PayPal, everyone involved wanted to increase the throughput of the chain. And for a variety of reasons that didn't happen. And so Bitcoin today is stuck at this 7 transaction per second kind of throughput number, and has no smart contracts. So Bitcoin just stopped scaling self-custody at that time. And you can see the usage numbers just fall off a cliff after that. And I think scaling self-custody is the entire point of crypto. Without that, we're kind of, not really doing all that much. And so I wanted to get a natively issued store of value asset that was composable with DeFi without any new bridge risk, essentially, because bridge has introduced a ton of new trust assumptions, and you essentially need to rely on some sort of custodian or set of custodians in order to bridge assets like Bitcoin or like Zcash over to Solana. And to remove that bridge risk and have this sort of asset that's natively issued on a chain that has, very competitive spot DeFi markets, to me, that's necessary to scale self-custody and get, more people opening wallets and able to hold this non-fiat currency.
Another part of this is also privacy. We saw Zinc kind of anchor itself in the Archeum eco, putting privacy at a protocol layer. I know I got into the whole chat with the Aura community over this, that privacy is built in with Aura supply as well. Maybe can you just explain kind of your angle on privacy, and what role does privacy play, and maybe from a strategy standpoint, if any?
Yeah, I mean, Aura is the largest privacy pool on Solana, or has the largest privacy pool on Solana, I should say. So we partnered with Privacy Cash a number of months ago now, and the Aura, or I should say Store Shield pool. So it is larger than the Sol Shield pool and the USDC Shield pool in terms of total assets staked in the pool, and so. Yeah, I mean, what I really think matters for privacy is the ability to transfer assets privately, to get into the Shield pool and out of the Shield pool without anyone being able to de-anonymize your addresses. As far as mining goes, we never really, none of the miners ever asked us to do blind mining. We never saw it as a need. I guess in the original V3 system, the community did discuss blind mining. It was one of the features we had talked about. I don't think you need ZK proofs actually to do that. This kind of interesting approach that they've taken, but there's simpler ways, honestly, to do blind mining. But we just decided as a community that we didn't want to do blind mining because it didn't make sense to us. I don't know, there wasn't really anything. It didn't strike us as solving a problem. So and it was a bunch of added complexity. And so we never implemented blind mining. I don't expect to in the future. Maybe if the community brings it up and it becomes a problem, that people care about, we'll solve it. But no one has come to us asking for it. So that's, yeah. what they did come and ask us for was the ability to transfer ore privately, and so that's where we partnered with Privacy Cash, and yeah, now Store is the largest shield pool on Solana.
Last question from my side. You have an amazing community. I want to give them a shout out. I, again, got into it in the feed with your community. I was very impressed with the community. Anything to say? You have this really great branding around, mining. I think obviously, I mean, mining ore makes sense, but just like the lore, what you think about the community, and yeah, anything to end off there with the community.
Yeah, I mean, ore is great because of its community. It would be nothing without the community. And ore has been around 2 years now, over 2 years, coming up probably on 2.5. Wow, and that core group of guys has been through hell and back, right? I mean, you can see it in the chart, you can see it everywhere. And there's like a shared trauma, I guess you'd say, that bonds those people together. Because they fundamentally designed like this grid mining system. I contributed maybe like 2 out of every 5 ideas. The other 3 were largely put forward by the community. Like the refining mechanism, the mother lode, all that stuff came from the community and nice. Was debated back in the Discord. So I think I view my job mostly as like just distilling and filtering through the bad ideas and then implementing the good ones. But mostly as like a conduit or a medium for what the community wants, and translating that into code. And so, yeah, really, ore would not be here without the community, and continues to thrive because of them.
The community is crushing. There's definitely lots of good opportunities to engagement bait between the Zinc and Ore community. I've been seeing a lot of that happening. And if you see it from MCG, it's just our duty to do so. No, but you are a very elegant speaker, and I think well-spoken. So I want to get some takes that are maybe just like outside Ore, just in general. And we've talked about quantum, and I just want to hear your theory. Of course, as someone, you're doing this full time, you're fully in this. Is quantum a real risk for Bitcoin? Just curious what you think.
And how soon?
How soon? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely, there are older key pairs or older UTXOs in the UTXO set that are vulnerable to future quantum computers, where we believe the technology will be in like 7 years' time. And that just means that basically the Bitcoin and the Satoshi wallets, right, could move within 7 years. And whatever that means for your Bitcoin thesis, it's just factor that in as it's a non-zero probability that could happen, is the way I think about it. And what does that do for trust in the network? And so, yeah, I do think it's something that's crypto needs to take seriously, because it is a real technology. Quantum computers are not sci-fi. They are real hardware that actually runs. And I just personally would not bet against any rapidly advancing technology.
Agreed. And only accelerating, I think, with the emergence of AI and how powerful some of these models have gotten, like Mythos and whatnot. So great take there. I think that's really fascinating.
Maybe on that, do you, I don't know how, how vulnerable or not vulnerable the mechanism is to things like, Mythos apparently being released today, and everyone's talking about, don't be doing DeFi stuff, blah, blah. How do you think about that as kind of like a project lead?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that developers could do is open source their smart contracts for one, and get more eyeballs on them. Closed source does not protect you from anything. It just doesn't. And so I think a lot of developers closed source their contracts thinking that it protects them, but it is very trivial to pull the binary off chain and reverse compile and then hand that to a Mythos agent. Very, very trivial. This technology, reverse compiling, has been around for many, many years, and happens. So yeah, you're not protecting your users by closed sourcing. You are protecting them by making your programs immutable. And so, made the mint authority immutable. So we can't change the max supply even if we wanted to. And we can't change that, we can never mint more than 2 tokens per minute. And likewise, all the stake in the stake program, we made the stake program immutable, and that secures, I think around 270,000 ore. So that's the stakers in that protocol don't share any counterparty risk with the developers like myself and those on the upgrade multisig, because there is no upgrade multisig on that stake program anymore. So all the things like, I think today there's like Humanity Protocol or something, and obviously Drift from a few weeks back, like in DeFi. Yeah, like one problem with DeFi, right, is like this stake, when you participate in DeFi, you share counterparty risk with the developers that hold that upgrade authority on that contract. And this is probably not well understood enough. And so, yeah, open sourcing contracts and making them immutable, I think, is like the only way forward for DeFi.
So let's open source it, baby. One more question. Obviously, you said 4 years ago you really got involved with Solana. You were working at Uber doing kind of these payments, and it clicked in your head. Payments are broken. Fees are high. It takes too long. I can literally do it over here on the blockchain. We've talked about agentic finance and how these agents are probably going to do the most economically viable thing, which is probably going to be on-chain transacting, truthfully. I remember going even from Ethereum to Solana and being like, wow, this clicks, right? You actually have to start using it to understand it. And we've all had that moment where it clicks for us. How fast do you think this evolves into the traditional world? Like, at what point and where do you see us going in the next couple of years? And at what point does everyone just say, hey, we're going to move, the back end of some of our companies onto the blockchain, onto Solana, to start benefiting from some of these payment systems that are so prominent and just so much better than the traditional system we have? Curious to dive deep into your thoughts, because I'm sure you have a thesis there.
Yeah, I think probably within 5 years, let's say, there'll be roughly 5 coins that are bigger than Bitcoin by market cap, and they will all be stable coins. Is kind of roughly where I think the industry is heading. Yeah, and I think that for a non-fiat currency like OR in this case, that's really important, actually, that happens. Like, this is a stepping stone towards a future with non-fiat currencies. Is that first we need to get as much fiat currency and liquidity as we can onto the crypto payment rails, so that the non-fiat stores of value like OR and Sol and ETH and others can like compete on the same rails, at least, as the dollar. Where right now we're not, there's no way to like go to your coffee shop and pay with Bitcoin, because they're just different rails. Like there's they're not playing on the same field.
Right.
Agents, right? I do suspect they will have a bias towards like crypto payment rails because they're cheaper and faster, and so that will drive a lot of USDC fiat liquidity on chain, and then the non-fiat currencies and stores of values can start to compete on the same playing field, and we'll see what happens then in the far future.
I really love this take on the 5 years before there are 5 bigger cryptocurrencies than Bitcoin. Of course, that being stable. I mean, the thesis I keep seeing coming up in the conversation I just love to have on the show is like, we're seeing it happen right now. We're seeing stablecoin adoption. We're seeing the emergence of QR payments in a lot of these emerging markets or third world countries. We're seeing the emergence of neobanks in sometimes in Europe and other things. Right now, really, we only have USDC, USDT, and US-based stablecoins. Do you think any of these in the next 5 years, any of these 5 currencies, cryptocurrencies that'll be larger than Bitcoin, will that be US dollars, or do you think we're going to see maybe the euro, the Great British pound? I mean, or could fit in there. Maybe just refine that answer a little bit more. Is it just USD stable coins, or is it going to be also, Great British pound, euro, etc.?
From what I've seen, most of the demand is for the dollar. Particularly in, say, like emerging markets in Latin America or other places where you have actual like currency risk. Users are trying to flee from inflation, and they flee to the dollar. Like, they view the dollar as their store of value. And so, yeah, I mean, personally, I think USDC like is a better store of value right now than Bitcoin, honestly. Like, I don't like, so
walk me through the life cycle, because this is what I'm trying to get at. I do think stablecoins are going to be the biggest onboarding event in the history of crypto. I firmly stand on that. So it's a bit more of an abstract concept, but how do we get from our current system to on-chain? I kind of see it going as this. You have these currencies are inflating at a rapid pace, and people find out they can transact, receive money all in USDC, and the easy answer is, hey, let's just start using USDC instead of our currency that's inflating to shit and going to be worth absolutely nothing. And so all of a sudden you have all these emerging markets and countries just using USDC, but it comes back to the same issue. Well, USDC is a Ponzi just like the other ones, and it will be printed into oblivion. And so then they have to choose, where do we go from USDC? Do we go to gold? Do we go to Bitcoin? And then I think that quickly takes them from, our currency's trash, it's already so inflated, we have to carry around duffel bags full of it. So USDC is a much better option. Let's use that. Now we're on chain. Is it going to be on chain gold? Like, is it going to be ore? What is that life cycle from getting from point A to, I guess, that vision we just kind of discussed here?
Yeah. Well, I think it will be probably messy and nonlinear. But yeah, I mean, I do see some sort of path like that, where I think stablecoin adoption on chain is a stepping stone towards eventually broader adoption of non-fiat currencies. Yeah, with every store of value, like the reason we use the future-proof electronic cash language is like, that is the vision, is that we think future-proof is essentially the fundamental property that you would judge a store of value by. Like, is this thing future-proof against potential shocks in the future? And so there's a bunch of risks that, you know, that shock could be. It could be inflation risk, and that is historically, right, the risk that has plagued every fiat currency, like the dollar or you know, Deutschmark, whatever, you know, the denarius, Roman denarius. Like, it has been inflated away by the state, because the state has very strong incentive to inflate away their own currency. And so this was Bitcoin's big innovation, was like, well, let's replace the central bank with some open source code that anyone can review and audit and understand. And I think that idea has a lot of value, and obviously protects Bitcoin from inflationary problems. But it doesn't protect Bitcoin from like quantum problems. And so quantum is like another risk that you got to factor in terms if you really care about future proofing. And for gold, right, like gold doesn't necessarily have central bank risk, but it does still have supply risk, I think, you know, in the sense of like, this is maybe far-fetched, but like, you know, SpaceX is about to IPO, and in their pitch deck, they're talking about asteroid mining. And there's a real shit ton of gold out there in space.
Yeah.
And this would not even be the first time that you've had a, you know, gold in particular has had a supply problem. Like in the 1500s, the Spanish brought like a ton of gold back from the New World, and the value of gold in Europe dropped by like many double-digit percentages. So yeah, I think digital currencies are like the best way to secure against sort of supply side inflationary risks. And then digital currencies, you got to make sure that they're protected from sort of advanced technologies like quantum risks, and as well as liquidity risks. And so that's kind of I think where V4 will, we want to start to address some of the liquidity risks that OR could face in the future.
I want to get back to OR here real quick, and I do agree. I think actually stablecoins will adopt at the application layer. It's like, you know, I like what Coinbase is doing with white label stablecoins, where developers get paid the APR on the treasury yield underlying it for the deposits they generate. So I think models like that will be good adoption drivers. But yeah, love the monetary theory stuff here. This is actually like pretty interesting, especially because Bitcoin's trading down 60K. It's like underperformed the NASDAQ, and everyone's like, oh, but it was a store of value. Not anymore, it seems mathematically. But so maybe we'll get back to that. I did want to ask though about OR, how it makes money for the protocol. Like, how do you sustain development? Do you guys just own a bunch of OR that you have staked and you're earning fees like everyone else to sustain development? Or did you guys raise funding? Like, how do you maintain this for the next 20 years while this all plays out like we just described?
Yeah, that's a good question. So OR from day one has been fair launch, and the team took no allocation. So, you know, supply started at 0, and it's been mining 1 OR a minute since then. And as part of the V3 system, there's a 1% fee that's baked in. So 1% of the SOL that's deployed across the grid goes to essentially fund the labs company development. And we're in the process now actually of splitting out a nonprofit foundation from the labs company, which will essentially be in charge of like all the marketing and growth initiatives to grow the user base. And I think that is important actually, to like have a human organization on the ground that is funded and incentivized really to grow the user base and like spread the message from that fee, and using that fee, you know, is essentially the budget. And then the labs company, we did raise a seed round. So it didn't involve any token sales. So no ore was sold as part of the round. All the investors in that seed round received equity in the labs company, and then were obviously given, you know, the freedom and option to participate in the open market for ore to the extent that they wanted to. And so the labs company is, you know, essentially right now working off that fee as well as the seed round fundraising.
And is the thesis behind the labs equity raise that, you know, the protocol will grow and the 1% will just, you know, generate more and more revenue? Is that kind of the idea? Because the protocol or the labs company doesn't own the ore itself. So it's not like a DAT or like a treasury play. It's more of like build the protocol, generate more revenue. And that's how those investors will see a return.
Yes, that. And as we've been able to separate the token and the protocol from the labs company more and more, so freezing, you know, the on-chain contracts, just as more we've been able to create more separation there, we are growing more comfortable with the idea of like the labs company essentially becoming a market maker on chain for ore to help tighten the spreads, and then generating profit that way. And so providing liquidity services for the users, and being a market maker.
So I guess the question that comes up directly from this is people are going to question the decentralized nature of the protocol. I want to understand your thoughts on the importance of a decentralized nature. Obviously, in this case, there is some equity in the foundation. There is a team helping develop and iterate. There is, I guess, these non-decentralized aspects to it. How important is decentralization? Like, how are you guys thinking about that? Should there be a dev team? Obviously, right now, if Bitcoin had a dev team, you know, maybe something would happen to where it'd be forked and become quantum resistance or whatever. So in your mind, we think about the decentralized nature of these protocols. Some people put that very high on their list of importance. Curious where you kind of place it and your response to those people, what that would be.
Yeah, well, it's a very fine balance. And I think there are different parts of the system that you want to make sure are like super decentralized and immutable, and other parts where it's actually an advantage to not. So for Ore's case, right, like we knew there were specific parts like the mint authority that we don't want the labs company to hold on to and can never tap into. And the max supply, like we never want to be able to increase the max supply in the future. Like that's a guarantee that we provide the holders, or the max inflation rate. You can never mint more than 2 tokens per minute. And likewise on the stake. So like, you know, we don't want the labs company to be seen as like a custodying, you know, all this stake. So those pieces, right, that we're confident we don't want the labs company to hold, and we want to create separation, or we want to freeze to provide security guarantees for the users. We've frozen those contracts, or pulled those features out and frozen those contracts, while the core kind of mining system, the rules of the 5x5 grid are still upgradable. And that allows the Ore community to propose new features and kind of, you know, change the mining experience while not being within the creative constraints of like the max supply and the emissions rate.
We saw Zinc go to like a circular grid where it looks kind of like the roulette wheel that we were discussing. What are your thoughts on, is a grid shape relevant, or is it just kind of like a visual UX thing?
It's a visual thing. Yeah. It's definitely visual. Like we could do a triangle if people want a triangle.
Yeah.
I think there's a few
that would send the wrong message.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. I think there's a few like community sites that have played around with alternative skins on top of the mining game.
The gamification is nice. I mean, it is a fun little feature. Like I could sit here and just watch it mine and land on the block, which is maybe a little degenerate, but like it is pretty cool how it looks. I actually do like the gamified nature of it. So
yeah.
All right, Hard Hat, we've kept you for like an hour. We want to respect your time here. Great conversation. Not only just talking about Ore, but general theories and markets and direction. Close us off here. Maybe put a bow on this. Let us know what's coming in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months with OR. What are you guys most excited about internally? What can people be expecting?
Yeah, I mean, so the big thing is the V4 rollout, and so this will be staged over a couple different releases. Yeah, all the details have been pretty held pretty close to chest until now, and so just today we are starting the rollout. This includes like small things like UI changes to larger incentive and protocol changes, as well as some DeFi integrations on the liquidity side. So yeah, I mean, if you're looking forward to seeing what's coming with OR, I'd say hop in the Discord, and we're going to be kind of debating as a community as each one of these features rolls out, and we kind of refine it and go live together. So yeah.
Boom. Love it. Well, this has been a pleasure chatting. You're an OG. I think, again, I'll say you are a very elegant speaker, well-spoken. I think you do a good job at, really capturing an audience here and giving a compelling message. So we appreciate you coming on. Excited to get this one out and share it around. So always welcome back. Mr. Chad is what we'll call you.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, guys. This is fun.
Yep.
Cheers. See ya.
Peace.
That was a great chat. That was very interesting chat. I'd say one of my favorites. So Josh is always, quick to say that was one of the top chats. I think out of the 450, 500 plus conversations we've had, that was very interesting and fascinating.
A top mining chat for sure.
Sure. So now what I hope doesn't happen is that Hard Hat Chad and the Zinc guys hate us after we naturally make some sort of engagement bait post comparing Zinc and OR. They just farm.
Oh, I mean, it's like not it's, how many different AMMs are there? Right.
You're
I
right,
mean,
right.
like there's different, these are just different mechanisms. People got to experiment. Like to tell someone in crypto they can't experiment with something else that works. I mean, well,
Sure.
then you haven't been here for 10 years because that's all we've done for 10 years. Right. So
Yeah.
it's just funny to see the community. I mean, the one I'm still stretching at, like, and these are some of Crypto Jones's questions. He did kind of like allude to some of these, which is just, I mean, it comes down to what's the inflation rate, right? Like, is it net deflationary? Is it net inflationary? How much is it net deflation or inflationary? And that's where you derive the store value from, is the network growing or shrinking? And then in that, there's kind of these micro games. Like, for instance, if the bounty or like the pot, if it grows in size, right? Mathematically for Zinc, it was 1 in 700. I don't remember for what it is, but if it grows in size, it attracts more liquidity, which drives more revenue. And so then you get these kind of, if you're staking or holding, you get more value closer to the winning of these pot. But as soon as it's won, then you lose the equity value, because air quotes equity value, you use the token value, because then that user might go and sell that, right? They might take that 187 or 14,000 and clip it out. So
now 10% of that will go back to stakers, though, which is nice, right? The UOR stakers, if they do take, let's say it's 15,000 in this case, someone wins the mother load, they win 15,000. Well, there's $1,500 that'll be distributed to the stakers. So like even if they do go and clip it out, again, and he explained the reasons maybe why not to, because you're using native currency here rather than fiat. But even I think the most interesting part for me is seeing that there is a 50 to 70% APR on unrefined OR stakers. Obviously, this is diminishing return. So the more people that come on the network and stake, the lower the APR is going to be. But it makes an interesting case for like people who can actually mine at a net loss, right? So if you get one OR, and the value of OR right now is, let's see. So if you get 1 OR a minute, and the value of OR is, it's like $76, right? $76 an OR. Someone may go up to $100, spend $100 to get 1 OR, as long as they can eventually win this unrefined OR and they can stake it and make 10, 20, 30, 40%. And of course that grows as the network grows compared to stakers. So there's a bit of math for this whole system, but I think it is going to be interesting to see, like, as the OR value grows and as the network specifically grows, where people are mining and selling, and 10% of that flow is going back towards stakers, how many people are actually incurring losses to participate in the mining to receive this unrefined OR, making it inflationary by nature as well.
That's the other problem, is I think the overall mechanism, like if I think of a store of value, like it's easy to sell Bitcoin as a store of value, Solana, et cetera, because they're native currencies in the trading ecosystem that hold some value. But this is like a store of value, but like offering a Lamborghini up as like a way that the protocol works to get you that store of value. There's just so much complexity to how you get to a store of value. Yeah. So anyways, I don't know. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting nonetheless. Hard Hat Chad is very well spoken, and I think he's a good guy to be manning the ship, the foreman. So nonetheless, great conversations today all around. I know Solana's going to like that one. He was singing praises for Solana the entire time. So there's a big vouch for them. But shout out, got Solana on the shirt here. So Josh, how do you want to do this today? We're done with the interviews. Really good stuff, guys. For anyone that's new, we stream every single day. MTG is the fastest growing crypto show, and we try to provide value like this, just getting the best founders on here to come and tell their stories. This one was very compelling today with Aura. The community is very solid. Do us a favor, follow MCG Live on Twitter if you want to keep up to date with us. It does us, it does big things for us, getting us circulating in the algorithm, and I think it's a ton of value, probably the most value you're going to get on crypto Twitter. So just some housekeeping. Definitely go ahead and do that. But great conversations today nonetheless. And I completely forgot to even have banners up the entire time. So it's all good.
It's all right. All good. Or is what true crypto is all about. Yeah, futures. I do like it. I do like it. I've played Bean and I've played Zinc. I've not played Ore yet. So maybe I'll give it a try. There you
go. So Josh, what do you want to do? Anything you want to cover today, or pretty much good?
I think we're good unless you guys have tickers in the chat. It's hard to look at these markets right now and get like super excited.
I'll go through some on-chain stuff. Just see what we're seeing here.
Just thinking WorldCoin's the strength is just notable. It's just notable.
It is notable. That's why we noted it at the start of the show. It's really notable. The strength's impressive. Hype has been pretty low on the strength totem pole recently. So hopefully we get those lower entries. We'll see. I don't know if we want to, we don't need to cover macro again since we did that at the start of the show, but a bit of bounce. I will cover on chain because there's some interesting stuff. Oh, here's what I want to have a conversation about. Let's talk robotics, Josh. I'm under the impression that we're going to see a big robotics season here in the next 6 months. I think AI is finally at that level. We see SpaceX IPOing pretty soon. We see these private robotics companies scaling super fast.
Andrew Kang, main character for that.
Yeah, Andrew Kang being the main character. Deus just launched. Bot launched with Andrew.
How's Deus doing?
It has been bouncing a little bit. Again, undervalued in terms of if you want to compare net asset values of Deus versus like Bot or anything else. So I do still think it's net asset value. Not very good. It did bounce recently. But I am holding this one out. I'm down on this for the record. I entered around these levels. Down on this. I do think it's undervalued. And I think I'm holding out for a bit of a robotic season because I know even the holdings that they've had, we're not going to know the true value until they go and raise another round in a future liquidity
Physical
event.
Robotics too, which is good.
Yeah. But I do think very quickly the net asset value of this, which is 6 point something million invested in private robotics companies and like 3 million cash. So about a 10 million net asset value, not including the tokens they hold since that fluctuates. This is below net asset value. And I do think quickly we see as these robotics raises happen and you get these liquidity events, that $6 million they hold in value will quickly jump to like 12 million because we are seeing the values of these increase 100+% easily every liquidity event, every time they raise another round, going from 100 million to 500 million to $1 billion. Like they are scaling quickly. And I think we do see the net asset value grow with this, which is why people are trading Bot, for example, at a premium, right? Which is, that's Robot Strategy here. So here's Robot Strategy for reference. Robot Strategy is trading at a great premium to the net asset value they hold. And of course they hold the same stuff as Deuce does. So I believe this is trading 5-6 plus X. So that's how much people want exposure. So based on all this, what I'm seeing is people are very hungry for robotics exposure. A lot of these companies are private. I think we see a pretty strong robotics season within the next 6 months, of course, coupled with the just advancement of AI being smart enough to really allow these robots to do autonomous tasks, and just a lot of the value that these robots provide. I think a couple months ago, we were in very early stage development of humanoid robotics, and none of them were very practical. Now we're seeing a lot more practicality. Josh, we watched it live on stream. When China had the Chinese New Year, they had robots doing backflips and like some crazy stuff. So we're getting to the point where it's rapidly accelerating. There's a lot of money going to this. I am bullish robotics next 6 months here. What are you thinking, Josh?
Yeah, it's just how do you play it on chain? I'm not bullish on software-based robotics companies. There's so many of those. The two drone ones that we've called out on chain on the show are CPT and Praxis PRX, right?
Both private defense.
Yeah, CBT is kind of just going sideways. Praxis kind of going sideways. I think they're very early stage companies. Yeah, like I mean, even Impulsor is, still pretty early stage. But outside of that, do we have any other robotics drone plays that are physical?
No, not really. Like you said, you have the drone defense robotics in CPT and Praxis, I guess, kind of betas. And I believe that'll be interesting when we see like Impulsor, for example, CPT go and raise around, which I think they're looking to do. Just to see how the equity on chain is represented there. Nothing physical, and I think hardware is kind of the moat in this case, right? There's a lot of people that are going to compete on the software front because it's much more of an easy entry where they build these sandboxes to train robots and agents. Of course, we had Strike Robotics come on. We've had Kodak come on, both kind of doing sandboxes, solving for different things. Something needs to win. So, like, I mean, not bearish software for robotics, but like, I think the competition is much higher because the hardware moat takes money, it takes experience, it takes a builder, and I think it is a pretty strong mode for a lot of these companies. So kind of agree with you. But I mean, look, these robots are going to need these solutions. If you have humanoid robots, they're going to need something like Strike Robot offers, where you identify issues and they kind of integrate that layer into the robots where they can identify issues and fix and solve them in real time. And what Kodak does for training them in different environments and sandboxes, like, it's important. The question just is, who wins that? Is it going to be a Web3 company with maybe a lot less funding than competitors? There's a lot of competition in it because, your average software, not your average software developer, but a software developer could come up and create these sandboxes, whereas you need like scientists and deep technical guys to go and build the hardware moats out.
Do you want to pull up CPT?
Yeah. Is it up? All right, here's Praxis.
Yeah.
And again, I don't hold this one because the thing about Praxis is there's no equity tied in this. They're doing competitions for Anduril, right? They're working in the private defense sector. The kids are smart. They're younger, but there's no economic tie back to this, which is what I think you need in this case. CPT, for example, does have the economic tie back with 7% of the company's equity being on chain. And again, this is trading at a $12-13 million valuation. If you account for the, multiply the fully diluted value by the equity on chain, or you can just look at the number right here. It's about 13 million valuation. Again, opening a whole new office in the United States. They just hired some new guys that are like very, very prominent in the space, and I think seeking these government contracts. So yeah, prominent. I mean, to have upside in a micro cap in the, I think this kind of just runs based on the fervor and hype of robotics in general. So that's kind of my bet here. And I do hold a position in Impulsor and CPT. Good friends with Patrick and Roman, of course, as well. And so, like, I think this is much more investable than the rest, right? At the moment, you think about the software companies like Strike Robotics. How do the economics flow back to the token? It's not an equity play, so it's tough to say. You think about Kodak, also not an equity play, although they did mention on our conversation that they are interested in pursuing the ACE round and pursuing ongoing funding. So there may be an equity component tie into this at some point. But I do agree with you. I think generally the actual hardware products are something I'm more interested in, or the companies like Deus who have a portfolio full of private robotics companies, and they're going to make this robotics capital market, as they say, where they take these prominent robotics companies that are private, take their shares and put them on chain so you can actually trade them. And they're going to get kickbacks of the fees, which I think is actually very interesting. And I do think there will be an appetite for that. So, I mean, there's all sort of positioning. I think it just comes down to the general concept of, I think in the next 6 months, robotics really has its day. similar to what we see in AI happening, maybe not quite to the extent, but at some capacity.
I'll just notice Praxis on their thing. They just passed round 1 of the Anduril AI Drone Racing Grand Prix. Actually, maybe I'll show what they've built for this because it's actually kind of cool.
For sake of the conversation. And note
yeah,
again, these are low caps, guys. Very volatile. So just DYOR
Yeah.
on everything.
Do your own research. This one launched through EZA. I actually got a chance to interview them. Well, we did at in Miami. Okay, wait, where is it? Okay, sorry. That guy didn't have Praxis in his chat, but here we go. First qualifier for the AI Grand Prix, and this was a video that they had posted here. So it's like a drone flying through gates or whatever. And so this is software, but you got to marry the hardware comes in because you got to marry the software to a computer that balances AI vision on the drone, but also with the this intelligence to help it actually do something with the flight controls. You can see there like spelled out PRX, which is actually kind of funny. I just noticed that. So very interesting. So monitoring the situation on these. And if you want to see their whole interview, let's see. Maybe I'll go, is it here? Oh, they didn't retweet it. If you go back to PRX, you'll find it right here. So there's the drone. He's actually carrying it in right now. So this, yeah. Anyways, that's that. No tickers in chat. So I don't see any tickers over there, Dom. I think we're good, guys. I think for today, that's
Let me pop up just real quick the chart and just kind of go through what I'm seeing here. Maybe what I'm looking at. Of course, Collector Crib, we talked about cards. We know they have $30 million in card value. Of course, Twom said he ideally wants the token to represent all economics of the company. So really, if you get back down to this golden box, you're sitting at net asset value, and it just seems like fundamentally a good trade. Watching cards, again, market's nuking. This one's holding up really, really nicely. It's been a leader. Don't know if we're going to get it down here, guys, but if you do, I think personally, I'm going to slam a lot of money into it. Litcoin's one, you guys know I've been holding. It's at an interesting zone, of course, interesting experiment. We kind of go back to the thesis that all agents are going to do the most economically viable thing. And if they can contribute to this ecosystem and supply data, as long as it makes money for them and pays for their inference and so on, they're going to, whether that's now or in the future. That's kind of the thesis there. Litcoin's looking really interesting. Clude's what we've had on. They're going to be doing the ACE round, or at least planning to do the ACE round. We know they're working with the government in Singapore. Been following their updates on their Twitter. They're doing some really cool things, working with some really cool people, seeking future funding as well. I think at 1.8 million, assuming they do anything under a 1-3, 1-4, 1-5 conversion rate for the ACE round when it does come, is probably undervalued here. So I like Clued and probably turning on a DCA for this shortly. Pump.fun, of course, markets are kind of trash. Volumes are going to be reflected into that. So we probably see Pump Fun token go a lot lower. This is one thesis becomes like when the market comes back, this comes back very strong and probably becomes a leader, of course, again, because this is directly ties to volume. So, no need to rush into this one. I think when you get under, if you keep dipping down, it's probably a really good value even here. But I'd say this is much more play it by ear. When the market starts to come back and you start to see volumes ramp up, you can probably get a really nice early entry in this. You don't have to time the bottom, I think is the key with Pump Fun. Prism is one, again, interesting, holding up very well against the market, holding up very well. I think there is some supply control here, which we saw potentially. Yeah, lots of 2-3%ers. Let me see the bubble maps. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, oof. Yeah, the bubble maps are not good.
Something we've always been weary about on premise going back to the beginning.
The bubble maps are not good. So again, it's holding up great now because there's very low volume. I think there's very little sell pressure. But you could see a pretty violent dump from here to here. I mean, we saw what happens with the supply control when we candled up to 3.5 million after an Ansem soft chill here, just instantly nuked. So there's some supply control, and clearly they're looking to exit on pumps. at some point you got to bite the bullet. Nonetheless, I think what they're doing is interesting, and we see things like Squire, Surplus get a lot of attention for their inference and selling extra inference. I think Prism is kind of in the same boat here. So just watching that. Kodak, we talked about VVV. This one's been leading the AI race. So let's just kind of take note where it is. It looks like it's rolling over, showing a little weakness here when it's been relatively strong the entire time. So we might get a little pullback. Again, Venice is a very interesting one. All economics flow back to the token, I believe. Or I forget the exact number. Little guest entry here, guest appearance. Let's do DRV. Derive is doing options. This one's been incredibly strong. Derive has been incredibly strong, and this is a new pool, so it doesn't have a lot of history, but it is down from all-time highs. But again, we had K-Set on not long ago. This is like the leading options platform. Their volume has been meaningfully ramping up. So they're doing well in terms of volume. 35% of that revenue goes back to the token, so they kind of have a hyper liquid style. And they're the leading options platform on-chain. So one to watch if you think options are going to have a day. Serve has been the stronger AI runner. Very nice bounce. Of course, it got a write-up from some prominent people. It's getting a lot of attention. Again, it's an AI lab. And the question I keep coming back to for Serve is, you see AI labs raising at hundreds of millions of dollars, even tens of billions of dollars, so on and so forth. We see OpenAI file for IPO, confidentially file for IPO, kind of trying to beat Anthropic to the gun here. Both of those are probably going to go live at around $1 trillion market cap. And then you have these on-chain ones like Serve that are spinning out products. They kind of have a lab going on. They're beneficial to like the UAE government who's working with them. And they're trading at 51 million with some economic flow back to the token. It kind of begs the question, if this was a traditional product, would it be valued a lot higher? I think the argument is easy to argue yes, right? So Serve kind of leading the race. That's the theory, kind of a bet on AIX crypto convergence, one that's actually been doing meaningful work here. Partnering with banks, a few leading banks in South Africa, I believe I saw recently. Of course, working through NEOL with the UAE government. So interesting. Nonetheless, I just had to point it out. Banker, of course, getting most of the volume in on Base. If you think Base is going to continue to have a Base AI experimental season, Banker should follow suit. It has slowed down. So that's kind of why we're seeing this pullback. Outside of that, LeanFi, who we have coming on the show this week, taking leans on chain. Very interesting to see kind of these RWA experiments happening. This is going to be a fun conversation. Opal on a bit of pullback. Chill really likes this. Again, this is a data play here. Selling data. They are doing the ACE round, or they opened up the ACE round, so you can convert tokens to safe agreements, actual equity. So interesting one to watch, 2.3 million. TCG running off of the back of the whole TCG narrative and cards narrative. It has pulled back. They also have announced an ACE round, one to watch. Claw Pump. We know Claw Pump is a 90 million in volume, which equates to 900K in revenues for them. They keep 1%. 900K in revenues, trading at 2.5 million market cap. About 40% of that flow stays in the ecosystem. 60% is paid out to ecosystem participants like Squire, like others. So, there is, if you really want to talk about take-home revenue, call it closer to 300-400K, which is still very impressive for the last couple months. And there are some flows back to the token in form of buyback. So this one's getting kind of absurdly cheap. Again, the bet here is on the ecosystem that builds around this. And Josh, again, feel free to jump in on anything you see fit. I'm just trying to rip through these.
Yeah, no, I like Squire actually. Okay, when you're done your thing, let me know. I do have a Solana one.
Okay. Yeah, Router on a big dip here. Not going to really cover that because I haven't been following too closely. Umbra, they've launched their web app. I don't know, just one to watch. Traction is interesting here. Backed by Archeum. Pod, we had Pod on the show. This was a really, really interesting one. I think this is going to be a good bet. A beta to Venice doing well. It's a good bet to AIX crypto. They do have all economics flowing back to the token. Luke was very well spoken. This is a really interesting product. Keep eyes on Pod. Of course, it's Venice's leading uncensored model provider, although their main pivot is going to be this peer-to-pool inference that they're doing, where you can use idle GPU. We've seen deep hidden networks do this, yet failed. They seem to have an interesting twist on it. Squire is one Josh likes. I like Squire too. I think the founder is really good. He's had exits in the past. He knows how to run a company. This inference market is a big conversation. If you can really provide good discounts and get meaningful users and traction, this becomes an interesting bet. So I would follow the numbers here for Squire. As for that, Kins, this is another recent one that Spotlight, Pump Fund Spotlight highlighted. They're building a play to earn game, which I haven't seen a lot of recently. So it'd be interesting to see this do well because this has just been a very rough vertical to build in. That's my spiel. That's kind of what I have on a watch list. Obviously a few outside of that, like Matt and whatnot, but wanted to just go through those as quick as possible for you guys so we can keep it pushing. Josh.
Yeah, there's really quick, an Easy A kickstart. I'm not even going to bring it up because it's a low market cap, but there's this Scout AI token that is kind of interesting. I'm not doing any DD on it yet. I've kind of just flicked around on their X account, but it seems to be performing kind of decently here. It's very similar to like a Clad AI, to be honest with you. So take that for what it's worth. But I don't see anything about the founder or anything like this. So go do your own due diligence on this. I'm going to have a look into this and see if there's anything here or if this is just kind of like a Easy A kind of whatever.
The unfortunate part about Easy A has been these idea coins, like in theory, cool, sounds good. But there's no shared upside, right? Most of these guys have already left and quit and stopped building because the token was too much. And again, if the company goes and does well, I can almost guarantee most of these guys are not going to throw anything back to the holders. And there's nothing in the smart contract. There's no equity relationship here. So Easy A, unfortunately, goes the same way that Believe did, and ends up failing if they don't really meaningfully incorporate some sort of tied upside for holders, because we know what's going to happen. We've seen this story time and time again. This company is great. Maybe it's bootstrapped by some of the fees they get from this. Holders help them get deals, whatever. That's amazing. And then when it comes time, they get acquired or whatever it might be, the holders are left with nothing. And it's a story that's going to happen. Of course, this is human nature. And so until they incorporate some sort of equity structuring or some way for holders to see upside on these, I just they are uninvestable. That's the unfortunate truth. Good friends with Dom and Phil, of course. And I love the pipeline that they built out. And some of these projects are really cool. But again, you can have the coolest project in the world. That's amazing. But until holders get guarantees, it's just in this market uninvestable.
Yeah, really nice website. I will say that. So I'm going to do a little DD on that just to make sure it's not something I'm missing. I'm coming back to bounty work, guys, and I have a little bias here because I was in it. I've traded it well so far. I had a delim on it that didn't go so well yesterday on it when it fell out of my range on this candle here. But I don't know, at $1 million, I've been looking in the community and I'm just seeing it getting traction outside of CT. It's getting traction on TikTok. There was some lady at the Drusky meetup yesterday in New York who has 750,000 followers and she's doing bounties and stuff like that. So anyways, just going to keep an eye on these. The only thesis here is just you get one or two viral things going on because someone does something, hopefully not dangerously stupid. It could kind of take off. So, yeah, rip to 2 mil, down to $1.5 million. If this comes in enough here, 800K, 900K, even a little less, 700K, I might have a look at this. But yeah, not really a big meme coin fan, but this feels more it's in my news. Look here, if I share this right here on the right, Pump Fund's Go Bounty platform draws cheers and outrage, right? It's kind of in the thing, and anything with these primitives where we see action taken in real life. So on chain, some things are happening and then there's incentive to go do something in real life, hopefully net positive. The streaming stuff Pump Fund did, it got a lot of attention. So just going to leave it there.
Yeah. No, I think out of all the meme coins out right now, it's probably one of the ones I would lean on choosing. Nonetheless, let's talk schedule, boys. We have a really exciting day tomorrow, as for the rest of the week. So I'll run through that real quick. But let's talk about it tomorrow on the show. Not penciled in here, but we do actually have official Bunny OS coming on. To talk about their token and talk about official Bunny OS, what it's doing. I forget the ticker. It looks like they didn't add
OS.
That. Oh, it is OS. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see real quick. Yeah, so this has gotten some traction on base recently. I think it's up. Liquidity is very low. I will add that, but this is a virtuals product bouncing nicely. We're just gonna have them on the show. So they're coming on tomorrow.
Really
at
quick.
11:30.
Can you scroll down and does it give a little TLDR AI description of what they do?
The first open source agent, terminal, and OS on base.
Okay, it's a bold claim.
Yep. Okay, so there it is. So that's 11:30. Following that is Predict, which is, I believe, working with Adam from Star, and they're doing a raise. I'm not sure if their token's out already. It seems it is. Dick. Okay, that's an interesting one.
I was
Okay,
like,
maybe
wow,
no, it's not.
It's not. Yeah, but can you pull up the Star raise thing?
I can after I get off this. Is my only Twitter open right now. And then we have Litcoin, of course, Tekadon coming on. We think Litcoin is doing some really interesting experiments. So just kind of circling back on that, seeing what the updates look like. So really, really great day tomorrow. Following that, we've had some fills. Okay, so on the 11th, we have Karma Wallet coming on at 12 p.m. That tomorrow is going to be a fantastic day. So definitely tune in for tomorrow. And then the following day is going to be really, really great. Karma's coming on to kick us off at 12 p.m. At 12:30, we have Prism coming on, which is a new DeFi mechanism on base, offering indexes and some really unique stuff there. That'll be a lot of fun. Then LeanFi is coming on at 1:15. And of course, these were late. Some of these were late bookings, which is why I don't see them on here. Followed by the next day, Friday, Baseline Markets, who's doing some interesting stuff, JTVO, and a special announcement. Sunrise is coming on Friday for a big rollout they're doing. TBD on what that is.
Guys, I'll shoot you out an updated weekly schedule, and I'll just quote tweet it just so you have all the new additions now that we've gotten through our first announcement schedule.
Amazing. Guys, it's always a pleasure. We appreciate your support. It always helps us a lot if you go and follow and keep up to date, turn those notifications on. You guys can find us on YouTube at MCG Live. Everything, all our discography gets uploaded there, right? We know that the feed gets spammed with all these clips. A lot comes out because there's a lot to say. But if you want long versions, YouTube's always got them. Or you can go and search it on Twitter. You can almost always find it there. So follow us on YouTube. It means the world. We appreciate you guys. We're going to show up every single day, interview the best and brightest founders, people, thinkers in the space. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys.
Find that alpha.
Peace.
See ya.